Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. This particular one is amazing. This is amazing. One of my subscribers. Oh, come on. Don't work. It's not working. Come on. Let's see if I can get a better signal. Well, that's strange. Come on. All right, let's try this again. This is green. Fortunately, it wasn't green before. All right, so hello everyone. It's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. It's a bit of a rocky start. The internet signal was cutting out in my extender. So, interesting story. Immensely interesting story that came out today. And a mind-blowing story if nobody pays attention to it. One of my subscribers sent me something earlier this morning and said, hey, have you seen this story? And as you're reading through the story, if it was from another website other than The Hill, you would think to yourself, is this true? The Hill is this establishment gets. It's Washington insiders talking to themselves. In this particular case, they have unveiled a whopper. So, the name of this article, the FBI uncovered Russian bribery plot before the Obama administration approved controversial nuclear deal with Moscow. Wait a minute, are you telling me that Moscow, our mutual enemy, our biggest threat, the red menace that's across the pond, it's looking and staring at us down, that is our enemy, that we've had to put like $1 trillion into the nuclear program of rearming the nuclear armament or whatever. You've sold them 20% of the United States of the United States uranium reserves. What the fuck? That doesn't really fly. Which one is it? Are they this amazing threat that we must, take up arms, take up our pitchforks and go running to the borders of the water to defend the country with? Or are you selling us a crock of, what? And ultimately you turned around and sold off the uranium. I'm just trying to make this point that it can't be both. It can't be both. Pick a pony. Unless there's one third option that looks immensely worse than any of the other options. It's a market-driven system. We did what we needed to do to make a certain amount of profit, and then we sold you down the river by getting rid of the uranium. There's always that. There's always that. I'm gonna read the story, but the story is pretty amazing. Let me show it so people know what I am talking about. Let's see this. Yes, it's going to be in the bottom also. All right, let's get into this, and I'm just going to read it because it is damning. Like you have the situation. This is The Hill. This is not, some weird magazine that's in the boonies somewhere. This is The Hill. So what I'm reading to you is an establishment press. I don't understand how somebody can read this and walk away from it not thinking to themselves, oh my God, why aren't more people going to prison? It's hard to read it and not come to that conclusion. So I'm just going to read it. I'm going to read it in a whisper because I don't want anyone to say he's being inflammatory. The words themselves are enough. Before the Obama administration approved a controversial deal in 2010 giving Moscow control of a large swath of American uranium, the FBI had gathered substantial evidence that the Russian nuclear industry officials were engaged in bribery, kickbacks, extortion, and money laundering designed to grow Vladimir Putin's atomic energy business inside the United States, according to government documents and interviews. Federal agents used a confidential United States witness working inside the Russian nuclear industry to gather extensive financial records, make secret recordings, and intercept emails as early as 2009 that showed Moscow had compromised an American uranium trucking firm with bribes and kickbacks in violation of Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, FBI and court documents show. They also obtained eyewitness accounts backed by documents indicating Russian nuclear officials had routed millions of dollars to the United States designed to benefit former President Bill Clinton's charitable foundation during the time Secretary of State Hillary Clinton served on a governmental body that provided a favorable decision to Moscow, sources told The Hill. I want to read that part again, just so you understand it, of what's taking place, or what you're reading. An establishment press, because this is fucking mind-blowing. You know it's true. I'm just saying, it's mind-blowing that you're reading it in this magazine, in this article. They also obtained an eyewitness account backed by documents indicating that Russian nuclear officials had routed millions of dollars to the United States designed to benefit former President Bill Clinton's charitable foundation during the time Secretary of State Hillary Clinton served on a governmental body that provided favorable decision to Moscow, sources told The Hill. Now, I'm going to pause right there for the moment, because it's mind-blowing. That is mind-blowing. Take out politics for the moment. Take out politics. Say you're married. Say you're in a relationship. Say you're married. Say you're in a relationship. Let's say boyfriend, girlfriend, but you live together, or you're in a marriage. Somebody gives your wife, gives your husband, gives your spouse, whoever that particular person is, $500,000. Are you, as the other person that's sitting across the dinner table, that's eating pizza that day, blissfully unaware of the fact that you just got $500,000, that your spouse just got $500,000? Are you blissfully aware of that? Are you trying to tell me that that in no way garners influence? Come on, man. Are you bullshitting me? Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton are at the dinner table eating caviar. Or whatever they're eating. I don't know what the fuck they're eating. But Bill Clinton says, "Dear honey, woman across from me, somebody working from some kind of Russian agency has just given me a check for $500,000. Now that money is going into our charity, but ultimately that check came in for $500,000. So how much ever that money is." And Hillary Clinton, still working at the State Department, says, "Okay. Oh, by the way, there's a nuclear deal that I need you to approve. And yes, they just gave us a check for $500,000. Okay. Now, you're trying to tell me that Hillary Clinton is completely unaware that they gave her all that money, and that her deal to sell out, 20-some% of the United States uranium reserves was completely untethered to the cash that she got in from Bill Clinton. I'm sorry, I'm not that trusting. It's not that I believe that the person needs to have this, uber level of integrity. No, I don't think that at all. I think people being people will say, thank you for the cash. And yes, I'm doing a deal for the uranium thing. And even though I'm not supposed to pay attention to the cash that they just stuffed into Bill Clinton's G-string, I am paying attention to the cash that they stuffed in Bill Clinton's G-string. I'm a person. Of course, I'm going to be influenced if you're giving my husband hundreds of thousands of dollars, or how much ever you gave him. Come on, let's be honest. Let's be honest. It's not about a politician being corrupt. It's about people being corrupt in general. And this is not this thing that the individual, that the human being for the most part is fundamentally corrupt. That's not it. If you put any human being in a system where a large number of people just being put into that situation would do the exact same goddamn thing. It's not that Hillary Clinton is, this kind of super corrupt person. The system itself is the problem. If you put anybody into that wood chipper, it's going to get chipped. So yeah, if Hillary Clinton is in the State Department and just so happens, hey, Bill Clinton, here's a bunch of hookers, here's some coke, and here's $500,000. By the way, your wife is in the State Department. and we're going to pretend as if the money that we just gave you in no way influences your wife. And your wife has this decision to make on how much, on what, a fifth of the country's uranium, on whether or not she's going to make that deal. If Russia is a threat, and Russia is a problem, how are you selling Russia that much uranium? If the FBI had already found out that Russia had, for the most part, invaded these areas and networks and all this other stuff, you don't think it's a little strange and a little problematic that Bill Clinton gets that much money, and then his wife just so happens to pass a deal that goes in favor of the people who gave him that much money? Come on! Come on! I'm not taking a shot at Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton just so happened to be in that spot. I'm saying the issue that we're dealing with is somewhat systemic. That being said, Bill Clinton took a bunch of money, and Hillary Clinton was in the State Department presiding over stuff that corresponded to the money that Bill Clinton took. This looks immensely bad. Come on, come on, come on, come on. This is not just me. God damn it, man. The racketeering scheme was conducted with the consent of higher level officials in Russia who shared the proceeds from the kickbacks, one agent declared in an affidavit years later. Rather than bringing immediate charges in 2010, however, the Department of Justice continued investigating the matter for nearly 4 more years, essentially leaving the American public and Congress in the dark about the Russian nuclear corruption on the United States soil during a period when the Obama administration made 2 major decisions benefiting Putin's commercial nuclear ambitions. The first decision occurred in 2010 when the State Department and government access agencies on the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States unanimously approved the partial sale of the Canadian mining company Uranium One to the Russian nuclear giant Rostom, giving Moscow control of more than 20% of America's uranium supply. Now, I've heard Joy Reid make the argument that that never took place. I've heard her make that argument. I've heard her with my own ears, looking at her with my own eyes, make this argument that the Uranium One deal didn't take place. Does Joy Reid think that the people in the Hill are lying? Which one is it? Which one is it? When the sale was used by Trump on the campaign trail last year, Hillary Clinton's spokesman said she was not involved in the committee review and noted that the State Department official who handled it said she never intervened on any of the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States matter. In 2011, the administration gave approval for Rostom Tinek's subsidiary to sell commercial uranium to United States nuclear plants in a partnership with the United States Enrichment Corporation. Before then, Tinex had been limited to selling U.S. power plants reprocessed uranium recovered. Okay, this is getting into weeds. Where is he? Here we are. But FBI Energy Department and court documents reviewed by the Hill showed the FBI in fact had gathered substantial evidence well before the committee's decision that Vadim Mikorin, the main Russian overseeing Putin's nuclear expansion inside the United States, was engaged in wrongdoing in 2009. The article is making the point that before the deal was set in stone, meaning before the deal was approved, they had already gathered evidence that the guy was guilty. The deal should have never gone through. They knew that they were paying more bribes and kickbacks and extortion in order to get this deal to go through. And the Obama administration let it go through anyway. Now Hillary Clinton says, I had nothing to do with the deal. I had nothing to do with it. Hands off. I had nothing to do with it. Yes, my husband got a bunch of money. No, I had nothing to do with the deal. That's her case, and she's sticking to it. Now, of course, they backed up their decision. They said they were correct to allow this criminal to get this much interest in the United States uranium. I just find it to be amazing. Like, a friend of mine, Jalil, him and I were talking one day. Look, I'm further to the left than most, but I can justify why I'm further to the left. I made the point to him that power plants, our energy production, should be off limits. That should not be up for corporate interests at all. It's fucking insane to me that your energy production in your nation is up for, you know, who can make the most buck off of it. That's a vital interest. It's not something that should be in the hands of other people for the most part of sake of profit. Beyond that, there's a secondary reason. Climate change is a big fucking deal. That's also a national interest. I would make an argument that you're better off having that within the hands of government than you are having it in the hands of somebody who's just trying to make a buck and profit. That's besides the point. Jalil's point was, whoa, man, that's giving too much power to the government. And I kind of made the point to him that you understand that private interest means that that is not in your interest at all. Whatever degree of control you believe that you have within regards to your voice in regards to the government, you have zero in regards to private interests. This argument that, oh, we have to have it in private interest because that is at the very least allows us freedom. Freedom for who? Freedom to do what? No, I would prefer that to be in government hands. This idea that you're going to sell 20% of the United States uranium to any country is insane to me. But this was a business deal. This turned out to be a business deal. Think about it though. Is business the end-all be-all? Have we arrived at the honest and ridiculous point where somebody's goal of making a buck is far more important than national interest? I'd argue that you selling off 20% of the country's uranium to any other country, to anybody, is problematic. Is immensely problematic. I'm blown away that somebody thought that it was okay to make that deal. Now, I understand that companies want to make as much profit as possible. Fair enough. You have a capitalistic system. You tell them, hey, have at it. Do what you got to do. Make your buck. Make as much money as you can possibly make. But you would expect, at the very least you would hope, that there would be some aspect of government, some apparatus built into the government itself that will look at this and say, whoa, 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 whoa. We don't necessarily hate Vladimir Putin, but no, we're not making that sale. Crap. I think I am down again. Oh, I'm still up. Okay, the page crapped out. Yeah, that's amazing, man. That's amazing. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. It's put it this way: if your energy production was in the hands of government, that deal wouldn't have taken place. That's all. Or at the very least, if your energy production was in the hand of government and profit wasn't the highest motive, that deal would have never taken place. That deal can't take place in a system where the American public was the top priority. It just can't. Now, this article is immensely long and detailed, but for the sake of the point I am getting at, and there are two. Yeah, for the sake I'm getting at, there are two. The article itself makes this point of this kind of Trump and Russia, but it makes a point that there's no evidence connecting Trump to Russia on this. Now that's amazing, and that's true. That's honest. That's honest. There have been allegations about Trump and Russia, but there's no evidence connecting the two. That's honest. That's true. The fact that The Hill is saying that again kind of makes this point that the stuff that they're saying about Trump and Russia is bogus. Or at the very least, they haven't showed any evidence to kind of nail that home yet. That's the first point. The second point is Bill Clinton getting a bunch of money while his wife as Secretary of State is problematic. Come on, that's problematic. That's problematic. We're to believe that this man getting this money in no way influences his wife in the State Department. Come on, man. I don't understand how that's released. I don't understand how WikiLeaks can put out documents in that way. I don't understand how that information can be in the public's consciousness at that point. Meaning, if FBI wanted to see it, the FBI only needs to go to WikiLeaks to see it. It gets a pass. It gets a complete pass. I'm blown away by that. Every time I see something like that, I'm blown away by that. Look, HA, I've gently joked HA a little bit for being so stick-to-itive on the Hillary Clinton thing. But he has a point. He does have a point. If corruption doesn't exist anymore, it's almost like it's a free fall. They're going after this guy Mendez. He's a Democrat, and they're going after him with this kind of argument of, look, he was getting all this money. Yes, he was doing favors for the money that he was getting. Yeah. I'm not gonna be a dead horse. I'm not gonna beat a dead horse. I'm doing my best not to beat a dead horse. That's always a story. Catherine, Maryland. The deal was part of Obama's reset with Russia. Remember, Hillary. Yes, reset, but selling off 20% of our uranium. That's just amazing to me. Are you telling me that you can't reset without selling a bunch of uranium? And then I started thinking of the question, okay, why would they do that? Why would you sell off that much uranium in that particular way? Certainly, that looks immensely bad. Now, I would imagine if any conflict sparks off with Russia, that the United States is going to overnight take back that uranium. That deal is going to be null and void. They're going to say, yes, that property that you owned is now ours. That's the first point. So, even though we're saying uranium, let's put it in context. The thing is, though, if this was Donald Trump, if this was Donald fucking Trump, and Donald Trump made a decision to sell off 20% of the United States uranium to the Russian government on the pretext of a reset, heads would explode. Like, not just heads would explode, Maxine Waters would shoot herself in the face on live camera, on television. That's where we would be. Like, that's the world we would exist in. It's mind-blowing that this is okay. Now, understand it is within the discretion of government to sell off resources. They do it all the time. West Virginia, good example. Coal country. Well, that coal country, that money doesn't necessarily go to the people in West Virginia. That money is essentially privatized and given to whoever. As those states sell off that land, that money is not necessarily going to the public itself. So, yes. But I'm amazed at the double standard on this. Like, this is an amazing double standard. So what is going on? We have issue with rhetoric, but we don't necessarily have issue with action. I've asked this question before. It's like, well, this idea of resistance. What are you resisting, and when did you start? When Obama was bombing those 8 Muslim countries, was that the time to be resisting? Or now you're resisting because Donald Trump has a certain tone about him? Like, yes, I can deport a huge number of Mexicans. I'm Obama. I don't necessarily hate Mexicans, so it's okay that I deport a large number of Mexicans. It's okay that I break records. I'm Donald Trump. I am hateful. I'm a bit of a racist. And I'm doing the exact same thing. But because I am hateful and a racist, it's offensive. We don't like it. We don't like it. I'm going to keep Muslims out of the country. Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm Donald Trump. I'm hateful and racist. I'm going to keep Muslims out of the country. But when Obama had similar legislation, and when Obama was bombing the countries that they were keeping, that Trump is trying to set those the ban up for, no issue. I just don't understand it. So what? The issue seems to be just purely a matter of tone. When Obama does it, it's okay because he's not hateful, he's not racist, and his tone, he has an awesome manner about him. When Trump does the exact same thing, oh my God, the heads explode. Look, I'm just amazed by this. This is a very long and detailed article. It goes through this kind of winding roads, but ultimately, you end up with this thing of these guys trying to buy influence with Bill Clinton through bribes. Now, I'm sorry, man. This is just fucking amazing. That's all. It's just a fucking amazing article. As you're reading this, you're like, Bill Clinton was taking money while his wife was in the State Department. And nobody in Washington thought this was an issue at all. Selling off 20% of the United States uranium, no issue at all. Market-based solutions. The market is the thing that matters more than anything else. Cash rules everything around me. That's essentially the motto. Even as a vital interest is uranium. Wow, that's amazing. That's just amazing. This isn't about a disposable plant. This is actual MNE with massive veins of uranium. Tom Freud cake. I understand that part. I guess I'm just making this point that this is somewhat of a big fucking deal. I don't think this is minor. I don't understand how this goes off in Washington. People just kind of, Even there's a part in the article where they're talking about how The fact that they were trying to buy influence with Bill Clinton never came up. They actually caught this guy. They locked this guy up. They put him in, I think, 48 months. And in the case, though, they never mention all of these shady characters and all of the money that they were stuffing into Bill Clinton's G-string. I made up the hookers and the coke. That was me. That was me ad-libbing. I'm joking. But the money is real. Bribery is real. Yes, they're sticking money in Bill Clinton's G-string. Yeah. Dax Jacobson, if Bernie Sanders had done this, what would be happening now? See, that's just it. I don't think anything would be happening to Bernie Sanders if Bernie Sanders had did this. I think they would have been howling about it in the campaign because they would have been looking for anything to kind of tar him with. Understand why this is happening with Trump, though. Trump wanted to be conciliatory towards Russia. They took anything that they had to throw at him, saying that he was a Russian plant, he was a tool of Putin, and this and that, etc., etc., etc. These guys sold off 20% of our uranium. The same guys who were screaming about Russia, screaming about Russian, plants and all this other stuff, screaming that Julian Assange is this kind of proxy of Russia, all of the stuff, all of this nasty stuff about Russia. They're the ones who are dealing with the stuff. They're the ones who are being bribed by Russian agents. They're the ones who are essentially a part of this kind of influence peddling in Washington, where they sold off 20% of the United States uranium, then turned around and lied about it after the fact. It's amazing. Yes, it is serious. I'm agreeing with you, Tom's friend. No, I said it's a uranium mine. This is serious. I agree. Joan Levino, hypocrites. Hypocrites! Hypocrites! That's the word. That is a word that fits. Hypocrites. Maryland, what crook am I defending? I am not supporting Hillary. I am defending Russia. I'm defending the Red Menace. You go, girl. Yeah. I agree with you, man. I think it's serious also. Trim Alante, he absolutely does have a point. It's hard to hear him pair sometimes because it's clickbaity titles. You want to talk about AJ? Yeah. It's like it's like a hammer to a nail. Every solution, for the most part, has a title of Hillary Clinton. Look, that's AJ, man. That's the thing that he's gone with. But he has a point. Like on some of the stuff, he does have a point. If you're looking at the world and you're kind of making this point, like if anything gets done in this country, it's coming from the left. Okay, fair enough. Is the left in any shape to get anything done? No, it is not. Particularly if you're talking about the Democratic Party, the best that you can get is some kind of status quo, slightly right person. Then your problem is the Democratic Party. That needs to be torn down. Now, you have a secondary problem in the sense of corruption. Meaning, the stuff that they, like, reading this article, and you walk away from this article like, wait a minute, they sold us down the river on this. They're saying this guy is a major threat, and at the same token, they're selling him uranium. Which one is true? Oh, yeah, which one is true? Are you fucking over the country for profit? That's the first question. Is Vladimir Putin not the threat that you're saying it is? That's the second potential. And I guess the third potential would be, I guess you could say it's, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word I'm looking for. But essentially, you could say it's, yeah, my mind just went blank. Jesus Christ. Yeah, my mind just went blank. There's a very specific word, and it's like I don't want to say it without saying that very specific word. I guess you could say it's buffoonery. It's people who didn't know what they were talking about or didn't know what they were doing. I don't know which it is. All I know is it looks bad. It looks immensely bad. And it's a little strange that the FBI investigation didn't bring up the point of, wait a minute, the Secretary of State's husband is taking a bunch of money. Didn't come up. That page was silently pushed to the side. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. D. Martin, just pretend Bernie doesn't know any of this. Sanders is coming in. Hi, Brom. I'm dying to hear about C. SETI. I'm gonna have to make another video on that one. That day went kind of fucked up. I didn't get to go. But I'm gonna hold that off for another video. I am going to get a chance to go in November though. I'm taking that. Hillary died years ago, but the franchise chugs along nicely. That's awesome. That's awesome. Who said that? Chicky Rogue. Hillary died years ago, but the franchise chugs along nicely. What is like Weekend at Bernie's? Oh, this is morbid. Weekend at Bernie's, where they're dragging the body along and all this other stuff. Yeah, that's morbid. That's so morbid. It's funny, but it's morbid. How to be Clinton. Step 1, get dirt on as many people as possible. Step 2, use that dirt as leverage. Step 3, never give up the con. Yeah. If you're running from one country to the next, look, if you're jumping all the way to Australia to look into the camera and lie to people, then yes, that's intense. Personally, I think it burns. That's what I think. I think it burns. I think what it is, it burns in you so much that you lost to reality shows. And you have Bernie Sanders jumping across the country, and you have Bernie Sanders supporters being very loud about you lost to reality shows. She may not watch this channel, but goddamn it, she watches something. It's floating about somewhere. There are things that she herself has seen where she's like, oh, those motherfuckers. Those motherfuckers. I would imagine that it burns immensely to have lost to reality shows and to have every Bernie Sanders supporter screaming at the top of their lungs, we told you were going to lose to that reality show host. We told you. We told you. You didn't trust us. We told you. We told you. We told you. You nominate Hillary Clinton, you're going to lose to reality shows. We said it. And I would imagine having millions of people in unison scream at the top of their lungs for a very long time, for 10 months, that she was going to lose to reality show host, and she lost to reality show host. I will imagine it burns. So in her mind, it's, I would like to go away, but I can't. I must put my statement out as to why I lost to reality shows. This is what happens. I'm sorry, it's funny. Oh man, it's funny. Her stunt double has been shacking up with Bill Clinton for years. That's awesome. That's awesome. Hillary and Bill hugged me once as a kid. I grew up and became a never Hillary progressive. Are you shitting me? No way. You're joking. Joan Levino. You're joking. You're joking. Are you serious? You met Hillary Clinton hugged you as a kid? Why? Why? Catherine, he is loved and burns her ass. He is loved and burns her ass. I don't know that one. Bernie is a Hillary supporter. Can we stop kissing his Fugazagi arse? Oh, Chris Sean. Oh, okay, all right. I don't know if he's a Hillary supporter, but okay. Yes, yes, he said vote for Hillary Clinton. I don't know if that makes him a Hillary supporter. He's been out there bashing. Yes, he's been sheepdogging. That's true. Whether he's a Hillary supporter is a different thing. That's a different thing. Hillary and her flying monkeys are still blaming Russia and Bernie for her own shortcomings. Total denial. Mind you, though, they're blaming Russia and Trump while at the same token it sold off 20% of the United States uranium. Come on, this is amazing. This is amazing. That is a breathtaking level. Yeah, man, that's a breathtaking level of just being completely self-unaware. Or not caring, or shamelessness. I don't know which one it is, but there's a bad combination of something that allows a person to look into a camera after knowing full well, having a memory of the fact that you guys sold 20% of the United States uranium, FBI investigation going on saying that there's all the shady dealings with Russia and everything involved in the process. But that doesn't matter. You still approve it. And you look into a camera and say, Vladimir Putin and Russia. That's why I lost the election. There were a lot of reasons, but Vladimir Putin and Russia had a lot to do with it. I would love the interview question of, when did you believe Vladimir Putin was a threat? When? At which point? When you were selling them all of that uranium, did you at that moment believe Vladimir Putin was a threat? Now she's going to say, well, I didn't really have anything to do with that particular decision. Okay. The next question is, did you know that your husband was getting hundreds of thousands of dollars from people that the FBI were considering shady dealers? These questions are damning, man. They ask themselves. They really do. But this article hadn't came out while she was selling her book, and she's apparently broken her toe in public. Now here's the catch. No, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. Fuck it. Yes, I'm gonna say it. Is it possible that she knew, or somebody gave a heads up that the story was coming out? And knowing that this story is coming out, the last thing you want to do is be on a book tour and people asking you questions about this particular article that came out. Is it possible that it's not really a broken toe? That oh man, I don't like thinking that way. I don't like thinking that way. I don't like thinking that way at all. I hate thinking that way. Yeah, I don't like thinking that way. I'm glad she lost. So Democrats lose so much that the party goes downgraded to a minor party or third party. Agreed. This is that Chris Hedges walk in the wilderness. You shouldn't vote for anybody unless they represent your interests. Period. Period. If you're going to tell me that what has taken place over the last, 20, 30 odd years has been to the betterment of the country, I'm going to think you are a maniac. This country has slid further and further to the right. They have undone and destroyed the social safety net. And in many cases, it was Democrats that did it. It's Democrats that did it. The adults need to take over. That's what it boils down to. The adults need to take over. The children need to sit down. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. And they were willing to take cash and everything else and allow the country to fall into disrepute. 50% of the country doesn't vote. The Democratic Party doesn't ask the operative question of why don't 50% of the country vote. They instead make the decision of this is the politics that we know, so this is politics we're going to go with, and we're going to try to get lesser and lesser of the vote share. Now, mind you, when I'm saying lesser of the vote share, I just mean you have less people who vote, and they're willing to essentially use that playing space as we're going to try to get the number of people who vote in this diminishing people of voting demographic. The problem is the Democrats, man. I'm sorry. The problem is the Democratic Party. Bernie's pushed her and Russians were behind it. LOL. Jim Webb, Republican light. Jim Webb, if I'm not mistaken, he's the guy in Virginia. He's in my state. Yes, that's true. Jim Webb is pretty much conservative. Bernie is no less than accomplice. Oh, D. Martin. Oh, he's punching him. He's punching him. He's taking his shove out. Try Pazzo. I've broken a few toes once as recently as a month ago, and never once was my momentum at the time going backwards. Now see, that I don't know, and I don't want to be that cynical. Whether or not she faked a broken toe, I don't know. I don't care. Ultimately, the questions that are being asked here has to do with what's taking place with that uranium deal. And is Vladimir Putin this kind of monster menace? And if Vladimir Putin is this monster menace and the FBI, look, man, this could just be incompetence, where one part doesn't necessarily know what the other part is doing. That's true. We also live in a capitalistic society where people do what they need to do to make a buck. And if you have 100 people in that spot, if that makes sense. I understand Hillary Clinton is in a particular position, but you must understand Hillary Clinton is not special. Like, if you had 100 different physical matter realities, so it's just like this one, and if you did not have a Hillary Clinton at the spot, meaning the person's name was not Hillary Clinton, it would be a Bob Menendez. a Tony Jaa, Tyrone Jenkins, whatever. It's the slot. It's not the individual that's the problem. It's the slot. The fact that that slot exists where a person can be in that particular spot and do that particular thing is the problem itself. The problem is the way we're arranged. It's not necessarily this kind of individualistic thing. Yes, it's one thing to point fingers and saying, holy shit, that person shouldn't be able to get away with that. And fair enough, that's our system. But we do need to also understand that the issue is the fact that the system is arranged in this way in the first place. The fact that somebody can be in a slot where they can essentially have their husband take cash and they make certain decisions. The problem shouldn't exist. You shouldn't have it arranged in that way. That's all I'm getting at. The problem is the system itself, not necessarily specific to the individual. If it wasn't Hillary Clinton, it would be somebody else. But yes, in this case, I do have Hillary Clinton in jail still. In the thing. Because you have to start somewhere. And I'm not necessarily saying that she's more guilty than somebody else. It's in the Hill where they're buying influence on one person in order to influence a person who's in the State Department, who's presiding over a deal. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's all. That's amazing. Catherine Horace. Jim Webb may be a conservative, but his concern for the working people is genuine. Well, he can feel concerned all he wants. What are his policies? What are his policies? I don't care where your heart is. I care what you're actually doing. It's like, oh, my concern is for the working people. I need the cash. I need the cash. I'm sorry. I'm concerned, but I need the cash. Yeah, concern is nice. Jamal, you rewrite the software of our hearts. Okay, I have no idea what that means, but that sounds nice, so thank you. John Crab 67. I was really proud of all the people that did not come out to support Bernie Sanders when he decided to back Hillary. His millions and millions that stood and sat back down at the moment. You know what I loved? There's a video where Bernie Sanders is doing his thing. He's like preaching. His, hair is all over the place. He's shaking his fists and everything else. The crowd is with him. They're screaming, Bernie Sanders! And Bernie Sanders says, and now you must support Hillary Clinton. And those same people who were screaming Bernie Sanders like, boo! Boo on you, man! Boo on you! They booed Bernie Sanders for like a minute. He could not get a word out. They booed him for a minute. It turned on a dime. It was almost like the record scratched and everybody looked around at one particular point. They just booed him. Ceaseless. Unending. Booing. One man. Sometimes I would ask my wife, how do we miss epicness in small moments? And it's a slight tangent, but there's a point in it. What I mean by that is, if you saw a picture of somebody, that person could just be... I have this awesome picture when my wife and I were in, I think it was in Venice. And there was a guy, he's sitting on a bench, reading a book. And it's the backdrop of Venice. I don't know if you've seen the backdrop of Venice, where there's boats and whatnot. There's water all over the place. The place is gorgeous. It's fucking amazing. It's like a dream of sorts. And it was the most epic thing I've ever seen in my life. Now, in fact, I think I even took a picture of that. Now, I would imagine that guy doesn't feel epic. I would imagine he doesn't think what he's doing is epic to any degree, but it looked immensely epic. This guy's, this idea of just a man sitting there reading a book. There is something epic about a man being booed by an entire crowd. Like, there is something immensely epic about that. And they loved the guy, and yet they were willing to boo him at the drop of a hat. And they did for a long time. They booed him for a long time. Oh, thank you. Somebody gave me cash. Monkizimo, have you seen Black Panther trailer? If so, what did you think? I have seen the Black Panther trailer. I saw it earlier today. Look, I think Black Panther is going to be a fucking awesome movie, by the way. So that's the first point. The second point, my wife jokes me about this because I can't let stuff like this go. And when I point it out, she doesn't like it. You just not point it out and just enjoy the fucking film. The advertisement for the film, it's aimed heavily at a particular demographic. And I understand why. There are no issues with it. But you're listening to the thing and it's like Black Panther. And you're hearing like this mix of rap and African something that they've cobbled together for the advertisement. Fair enough. He's from Africa. There's going to be this kind of African thing, this flavor associated with it. But Black Panther society is like immensely advanced. I guess it would be some kind of derivative of African music. I guess the rap is specific to America. I think that was my grief or my gripe. It was like, that's very specific to America. So I understand what you're advertising it for. Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was good. I'm picking. I'm leaving it. I'm picking. I'm totally picking. I don't think it surprised Bernie. Oh, by the way, the Black Panther thing should be good. I am looking forward to that movie. That guy was a badass, and in comics in general, he was a badass. But he was also a badass in the movies themselves. Now, I have an idea on where the movie is going to go. You have this one Black Panther versus this other guy who's, I guess, a Gold Panther. He had a golden helmet or something on, and they were having this kind of street fight. I am a product of my culture. I am a product of my environment. Regardless of how I try to pull myself out of where I am, I'm still, you know, stick-to-itively in my country. I thought to myself, they're two black men fighting one another in like a street fight. And it's like, oh, dude, this looks bad. Don't do that. Now, I understand it's the movies and all this other stuff, but like I said, I'm a product of my culture. It's like, oh, God, don't have the street fight. I don't want you guys having a street fight. But they're doing karate, so it's different, I guess. And Catherine, she says, I don't think it surprised Bernie. What surprised Bernie? What you don't think surprised Bernie? Oh, you mean the corruption thing? They booed because it made no sense. Bernie promptly went into DC apologist mode. D. Martin. I like that they booed him. I like that they booed him. I don't want to... Look, personally, I don't want to stand there and get booed by an entire audience. I would imagine that's a jarring, shattering thing. Look, he took it well. He took it well. I think I might have walked off stage, he got in my mini and left. But it made no sense. You spent your entire campaign tearing at this woman, saying this woman was corrupt. However you want to say it. You've been making this point that this woman is corrupt. She's taking a bunch of money. What you're saying is honest. What you're saying is true. If this person gets $1 billion, what do you think they're doing for the $1 billion? To turn around and then say, okay, I know I said this woman was corrupt, but now I need you to vote for this corrupt woman. Come on, man. Come on. There's a certain amount of shamelessness that we can take. Skip Rock, Joan Lavino. I was at my mom's 2 days ago. I heard her talking to her sister saying he couldn't have beaten her without cheating, talking about Trump and Hillary. Hillbots had a psychotic break on November 8th. Yeah, they were shattered. They caved in. Kirk McDaniel, Bernie caved, he folded. I still love him. Fair enough. I don't hate the guy either. I do get a sick sensation or a sick thrill taking shots at Hillbots. And yes, that's politically divisive, and I'm sorry. But I do get a sick thrill. You cheated my guy. And yes, I know it was 11 months ago, but still, you cheated my guy. I have it ensconced in my mind that my guy was cheated. Not just that, how he was treated, how progressives and leftists were treated by the DNC. It makes me more aggressive in my going after them. Let me put it that way. It puts a certain dickishness associated with how I feel about going after Hillbots. I'm sorry, it's true. I'm being honest. That doesn't necessarily mean that if a story came out where Hillary Clinton was doing something good, I would say, hey, Hillary Clinton is doing something good here. But up until this point, they've been just running around the country blaming everybody that they could on why they lost the reality show hosts, and going into this mode where they're putting us in a contest with another nuclear power nation, saying that that nation has something to do with Hillary Clinton losing the election to reality show hosts. So yes, I think they're a problem. I think they're an immense problem. And at this point, they need to lose continuously until they get to the point where there is nothing left of that party, and that party can be taken over and made into the image of what a leftist is actually supposed to be. That's the honest truth. That is the honest to God truth. Jill's recount proved that they were both cheating. How bad a candidate do you have to be to lose a rigged election? Yeah, I mean, our country is hard with election stuff. If the goal of an election is to determine who the public wants, then you should, find the best method in determining that. And you should have backup systems where you can kind of do a recount to make sure that, this person actually won. They literally, in states, stop the recounts. Like, they find ways to make it difficult to get a recount, and then find other ways to actually stop the recount itself. I don't understand why anybody other than me don't find that to be amazing. Is the goal of an election to determine who wins? Meaning the public wise, the public making a choice, and then the election apparatus making the determination of who wins? Or is the goal to keep somebody in that particular office, or some stooge in that particular office? I just find it amazing that the recount system works the way it does in this country, meaning it doesn't work at all. And that you have parties that would actively seek to stop a recount because they don't necessarily want to know the actual result. Ultimately, they want to keep their particular person in that office. I find it to be amazing that that's okay. That's all. You get pitchforks or you get dollars. A candidate has a vested interest, meaning a party, of trying to stay in power, meaning they're going to use whatever levers they can to stay in power, above board or under. They have a vested interest in doing so. I don't understand why people believe this things or everything that takes place in the United States is this level of integrity associated with it. Pretend that integrity doesn't exist, because guess what? It doesn't. If you have somebody in some kind of election system, or you have some kind of business system, or whatever, and there's some advantage to be had, those people are going to function in ways to try to get that advantage. Hell, if you have 75 people, if you have 100 people, and 75 will make that choice, then yes, you have a problem in your system. You have a problem in your system. Stop pretending as if integrity grows on trees. It does not. It does not. Dax Jacobson, the goal is for your side to win. The end. Yes, I'm saying that's a problem. I'm saying that's a problem. Look, there is nothing at all. Be very clear with what I'm saying here. Your system of governance, meaning how we organize ourselves, whether that's economically, whether that's politically, there's nothing tethering it to the ground. There's no ground for it to be tethered onto. All of this stuff is purely based on how we perceive our apparatus itself. It was not made by God. It was not made by God. It is not etched in stone. It's not etched in anything. It's written on paper somewhere. That's it. People make the choice to follow that, and then that's what takes place. And you get a large number of people that start saying no, things change. What you're talking about is just a matter of organization. And yes, you need a lot of people to do it. But ultimately, until you get people to say, holy shit, there's nothing tethering this to the ground and we could change this, nothing changes. Nothing changes. I just wish people understood that there was nothing tethering it to the ground. That's all. They fall in line like robots. Now, yes, you do have this idea of state, and state, for the most part, at the end of the day, the only power the state has is brute force. State is either going to beat you into submission or put you in prison. But that's the only power state actually has. Yes, you have this economic stuff, but at the end of the day, what it boils down to is we have guns, we have nuclear weapons, we have brutes that we pay as cops, and they will beat you up. If you have millions of people on your side at the point of saying no, however, that loses a certain amount of power. It looks immensely bad for a country to start using its own weapons on its own citizenry, meaning at a certain point, those numbers start to make a difference. So yeah. Hillary did lose California in the primaries. Denise Devote, yes, that's still not what the final count shows. During the election general, they stopped counting when Trump started to gain on her. As a Californian, I know Bernie won the state, no doubt about it. That's Brahm SL1. Brahm SL1, they still have lawsuits here contesting the final count. Yeah, I'm amazed on that one. Robots make nicer cars. Kirk McDaniel. Yeah, we shouldn't have taxes. We shouldn't have taxes. If I had $1 billion, okay, let's say $10 billion, because I would like to have $5 billion as a safety net. I'm joking. If I had $10 billion, I would create automated cars that would just zip around the world, just zip around the states. You put in a number or whatever, and it just comes to your house, it picks you up, and it drives your way. Yeah, I can be in power. Because I wouldn't make choices based on this kind of political will. I would make choices on what I think was best. And I would imagine that at a certain point, my wife gets annoyed with me. It was like, people shouldn't have cars. I'm just like, what? What are you talking about? Do we have a climate change problem or not? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, we need to do something about the number of cars that are on the road. Now, then you have this thing of what people aren't going to give up their cars. And then you have et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's one thing we're going to hear Wolfers. I don't know how you arrive at solutions politically that deal with the actual issues that are affecting you, because ultimately you have the citizenry that are kind of, head is in the sand on this stuff. They believe that their world is going to persist forever, just the way it is. This infinite growth, or whatever the hell that means, that they can just go on in perpetuity, day in and day out, as if the world doesn't exist out there. They work their jobs, they eat their Cheerios, they kiss their kids, and they repeat and rinse the next day. They don't lift their head above the sand. Unfortunately, whether they lift their head above the sand or not, there's an actual reality out there that is going to adversely affect them or their kids at some point. So, but yeah, I would just have automated cars. They would go from point A to point B. If people needed to go to the store, we would just pick people up from the store, take them to the store. I would hope that it would get to the point where people just wouldn't have cars. They would say, okay, I don't need a car. I can put in my number and car will come and pick me up like an Uber. It would be automated. The world would be great. But at that point, it's just putting enough money into the process where it just pays for itself in perpetuity, where the people are paying little to nothing and put the other companies out of business. That's just me. Bram SL1, my brother who worked for Hillary's campaign admitted to me that Bernie did win California. Ooh. Tremolo tone. In other places, they use Bernie voters' info they took when the security breach. They charged his campaign was a firewall going down, so to speak. They used it in a purge. Oh, to purge his voters in certain states. I remember that one. Dax Jacobson. I like a car to pick me up and bring me to where I want to go and then bring me back home later. Yeah. But see, I think most people just want access. I know some people feel more comfortable with ownership, but ultimately what we're talking about in a society is access. If I need to cut my grass, fine, I buy a lawnmower. 90% of the time that lawnmower is just sitting in your garage, not doing squat, as opposed to going to like a library, checking out a lawnmower, using a lawnmower, and taking it back when you finish with it. Yeah. I think people just want access. I don't necessarily think people need to own. But that's me being a lefty. Or further to the left in most. Garnome, citizens are conditioned to cars in addition to many other technologies. Yes, they're conditioned, but they can be conditioned into other things also. That's all. Like, it's human beings are pliable. You can condition people in all sorts of ways. It's just the way we condition ourselves in our society. We have this kind of hegemonic view of markets being dominant over everything else. That's just a hegemonic view that can change. I was going to say Star Trek. If you notice, Star Trek's hegemonic view is based on people first. It can change. It can change. Just it's the prevailing wind. What's the thing that's pushing the hardest? Yeah, it could change. The hundreds of thousands of votes that were illegally purged here in California, the vast majority of them were provisional ballots for Bernie. Angela Willery, do you have a link for that? I'd like to read it. Catherine 1237 1. I remember that prom. Trumbullin, we used cell phones when I was a kid in the 80s. Trumbullante, we didn't use cell phones when I was a kid in the 80s. Yeah, me either. Me either. You and I must be around the same age. Gardner, people's conditioning regarding cars is deep. It goes straight to the reproductive choices. Try getting a girl if you don't have a car. Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that statement. So I had a conversation with the guy when I was buying my car, and I was telling him, I said, you understand that at some point you're going to be out of work. He's like, what? I said, they're going to be, in 10, 20 years, they're going to be no taxis. They're not going to be Ubers or anything else. So there may be Ubers, but ultimately those Ubers are going to be automated. All those people who are working for Uber are going to be fired. People, they're going to start automated cars. And it's going to get to a point where you are not going to be allowed to drive on city streets. It will get to that point. 25 years, maybe 30 years. But it will get to the point where it will be safer for a robot to drive that car. He said they will have to come and get me with my gun. he's like, they would have to take me out. Yeah, he was like, they would have to take me out and shoot me. That's where he was. He was like, hell no, that's not going to take place. Are you telling me that I can't drive my four-wheeler or whatever else? He was like, fuck that. Fuck that. If they're going to come and get my guns and they're going to come and get my car, then I'm going to be at my particular address holding my weapon. He was militant. He was militant. Now, I know for myself, when I'm driving my little Mini, I love, yeah, it's ingrained, man. I agree with you. It's ingrained. It's ingrained. There's a lot of stuff in us that's ingrained, though, that would need to change. That's all. And yes, I know this sounds bad, me saying it needs to change. I guess I'm looking at it from the standpoint of, I understand the whole driving thing. I love driving my Mini. And I love driving it at unsafe speeds. Yeah, I love driving at unsafe speeds. Something about it. It's just red-blooded American. But would I give it up if I had access to go from point A to point B? Yes, I'll give it up in a heartbeat. I'll give it up in a heartbeat. And look, this is not one of those hardcore things where it's like you're taking people's keys away from them. You just breed out the behavior. If you get to the point where you have an awesome system of car transportation, those people who cling to their cars would die out. And as rules starts to change, there will be fewer and fewer people bitching about this idea of driving and everything else. Any new city that I would create that city with this kind of infrastructure based where you don't necessarily need cars. But up until I get to that point, yes, I would try to weed out cars. The goal of this is to do something substantial for climate change. Now, if in 20 and 30 years you can get to the point where, A, those cars don't necessarily have any kind of fumes or whatever else, whatever they're running on electricity or something else. All I'm saying is you can make positive choices from a legislative standpoint that would benefit people in your society. You can make that argument. And I do think at a certain point you can condition people out of cars. Not people who are, not us. No, not us. Not us. The way the will to breed it out is by making driving a pastime for the elites. The way the will, miss it, breed it out is by making it driving a pastime. I would give up driving if it meant real change, of course. Yeah, I know you will, but that's a lefty thing. We're talking mostly about people who are like, fuck change. I want to keep my car, and you can't tell me that I shouldn't be driving, etc., etc. That type of stuff. I know you do it. A lot of people would do it. Cars are only cheap because they sell millions a year. Yeah, that's Jacobson. I don't think they're cheap. When they sell 30,000 a year, they would cost 20 times more than now. Red in Economics. Hey, Brom, SL1. Have Red in Economics. It's Stevie. I do love my black Prius. My Jill and Bernie bumper stickers are worn proudly. It's funny. Yeah, this is a slight confession. So, and I think I mentioned this before. When I went to get my Mini, or my car. I didn't necessarily know what I was going to get. And there was a Prius on the lot. And I drove the Prius. Now, I had already driven the Mini. And I got into the Prius. And I said, this is a very nice car. And under normal circumstances, I would absolutely get this car. But God damn it, there's a Mini over there with my name on it. I couldn't leave it. I was like, I felt so guilty for the rest. Like, I felt guilty about it. I actually felt guilty about it. I was like, oh, God damn it, there's some Prius over there. If I'm true to self, I should get that Prius. I left for the Mini. I couldn't do it. Yep, people know me around these parts. Yes, they do, apparently. We're all going to get jetpacks. I would love a jetpack. I'm still waiting for my flying car. We need a machine that can scan you, disintegrate you, create an exact copy, and send you to another location. You're talking about a transporter. We need a transporter. If you think cars are hard-grained, you're going to convince people that they're going to be dematerialized and sent somewhere else. Good luck with that one. It looks like it would be immensely painful. That's the first part, right? They're literally sending a beam or laser or something through you in order to break away. That looks like it would be immensely painful. Now, what they would probably say is, look, you're not going to remember it being immensely painful because technically that's not really you that's being disintegrated. Yes, it's you, but ultimately the person who's going to appear in the other place is not going to remember that. We're going to etch that out. It's like, but yeah, I'm still feeling the pain, right? Yeah, but you're not going to remember it. I don't give a shit if I remember it. I felt it, right? Yes, it would be nice. If it was painless, it would be nice. Red economics. I'm so eco-friendly, I don't even own a car. Oh, she's putting her lefty bona fides. If 60 miles per gallon, I don't feel guilty about that at all. I bet you don't. John Crab 67. Seeing we're talking about thin cars, then I have to know, are you still watching Star Trek Discovery? So far, I like it, but man, it's getting a lot of hate. So, I am watching Star Trek Discovery. Alright, yeah, alright, I am watching Star Trek Discovery. I have mixed feelings about Star Trek Discovery. So first, I am immensely biased because I love Star Trek. So any incarnation of Star Trek that I get to see, for the most part, I'm going to plop my ass down there and watch it. My issue with this is she does things that shock the conscience. I remember watching Star Trek Discovery, and if I'm being honest, slightly stoned when the first one came out, because sometimes I like to be in my heart center when I'm watching stuff like that. And she has the captain, her and the captain, and she attacks the captain. And as she attacks the captain, I'm like, oh my God, she just attacked the captain. Now, mind you, I just met this captain, Captain Yo, I can't think of her last name, the Asian woman. She seems nice enough, very personable. She seems like she's owning that spot. She's a woman captain, so there's a certain amount of softness that's associated with her that I actually like. I think it works. But she attacks her captain. I can't imagine Riker ever putting hands on Picard. I can't imagine that. Like it's mind-blowing. It's one of those things where if you're a true Trekkie and you think back to all of the previous Star Treks, every last one of them, all of the ones that are in canon, every last single one. Think back to every captain, think back to every crew, all of those. Now think of any of those scenarios where anybody on that ship attacks attacks the captain. You can't find it. You can't see it. There have been scenes where Spock and Kirk go at it. Fair enough, but Spock is usually under the influence of something. There is no situation in which the crew members would attack the captain of that particular ship. They regard that captain position as this kind of venerable thing. There is one show on Enterprise where it was the African-American cap, and he was the one, he was the last guy on the bridge, and he was sitting in his seat, and the woman was joking him, saying, hey, do you want to sit in the captain's seat? I mean, technically you're in charge of the bridge. And he's like, no, I can't do it. Like, so I'm trying to get across this gravity that they're associated with the captain's position. Can you imagine Riker attacking Picard? Can't. He loves the guy. Can't do it. Can't do it. Can't imagine it. Can't fathom it. Doesn't cross my mind because I can't necessarily see any scenario where that takes place. Can you imagine Chakotay attacking Janeway? Can't see it. Can you imagine anybody attacking Cisco? He was looked at as a fucking emissary. Within the first episode, the lead character of the show attacks the captain. A captain that she was supposed to have known for 7 years and was supposed to be close. And based upon this kind of, you know, mental trick of talking to her dad, Sarek, she comes in her mind that the most logical choice is to attack the captain. It shocked my conscience. That's all I'm saying. I'm spending more time on this because it shocked the shit out of me when I saw it. It shocked me when I saw it. Now, in one episode after the next, her captain says do one thing and she completely does something else. It's like, are you working for Star Trek or what? Like, what military body, what military organization or hierarchical organization functions in this way where you give orders and the person consistently does the opposite of the thing that you told that person to do? Now, fair enough. Usually she's right. Kind of besides the point. Kind of besides the point. That's my issue with Discovery. It's not so much that I hate the series. I think it's an interesting premise. But that part of it, I gotta be honest, it shocks the conscience, man. It shocks the conscience. Yeah, it shocks the conscience. Riker should have beaten Picard down on day one on the bridge in front of the crew. Nobody would have ever did that. If you remember, the first episode of Star Trek was the one with Q. And Q was on the ship. Riker wasn't even on the ship originally. They had to actually go get Riker because he wasn't on the ship. And Q interrupted them going to get Riker. It just shocks the conscience. Zonks, is it as bad as they say? Jamal seems to like it. Look, I do like it. I don't hate it. It's Star Trek. It's Star Trek. They're at a war with the Klingons, which makes it a little bit interesting. I don't even hate the captain, even though he's somewhat morally gray. But they're in a war. They're in a war. I don't have this expectation of these guys being squeaky clean when they're in a war, pursuing a war. The goal is to win. If you're talking about this kind of galactic domination, the goal is to win. I don't give a shit what else takes place. The goal is to win. We can have this conversation about this kumbaya thing afterwards. If we're in a war, the goal is to win. I don't want to be at the whim of... I'm not a dove on this front. I gotta be honest. I'm not a dove. I am morally gray on this stuff when it comes to winning wars. Because I don't necessarily want to be at the bad end of it. The catch is... Klingons wanted to start that war. The Federation didn't. Some of the stuff, and like the guy made this point, if you're pushing out into the cosmos, you didn't think that the cosmos was going to push back at some point. Human beings saying, we come in peace. Well, yeah, but you don't necessarily know how the Klingon Empire is looking at you talking about you come in peace. It's an interesting concept, so that's why I don't necessarily hate it. It would make sense that if you're pushing into the cosmos, if the cosmos is not peace and love, you're going to bump into something that's not necessarily, happy that the fact that you're pushing out into the cosmos. I really need to get caught up on Star Trek. The last one I watched was The Next Generation, and The Next Generation is still fucking awesome to me. I can still watch those episodes. Voyager is still my all-time favorite Star Trek. I like Voyager. My wife doesn't like Voyager. She can't get into Janeway. She's like, I need a man captain. she's being sexist. I need a man as a captain. It's the helm of my ship. If I'm being brutally honest, which I tend to try to be, probably too honest sometimes, there is something sexual about a woman captain. I'm sorry. I can't help it. I'm sorry. I'm sexist. I'm sexist on some points. There is something immensely attractive about a woman captain. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's this thing of this kind of power position. There's this you know, like the Wonder Woman comic, where the guy who made the Wonder Woman comic was this kind of into femdom, and so he liked this idea of a strong woman. So he had the Wonder Woman thing. It's funny to look it up. But I don't know if it's that, where it's, you know, a little power kind of goes a long way, where it's like, oh, that's kind of hot that she's the captain of the ship. I don't know. I like Voyager. Picard and Kirk are probably my favorite. There was this conversation about whether Janeway was a good captain. Janeway did things that Picard would have never done. Now, I'm not using Picard as just the end-all be-all standard, because I also think that if Picard was in certain situations, the Federation would have lost the war. So understand me on that. A lot of this stuff becomes contextual to the situation to which you find yourself. There's certain people who are better in certain positions than others. Meaning, yes, I wanted Sisko to be in that position when he made the decision to essentially get the guy murdered, the Romulan ship, in order to get the Romulans into the war. That was a Sisko choice. That was a good Sisko choice. Yes, he got his morals dirty. Yes, all that stuff. But the morals of a Starfleet officer, as opposed to winning the goddamn war, that's a good bet. That's a good bet. Would Janeway have made that choice? I don't know. Now, Janeway has made some sketchy choices. But that being said, I think she was a fucking awesome captain. I think she was a fucking awesome captain because out of all the captains, she was in it by herself. She had to go from one side of the cosmos to another side of the cosmos, all left to her own devices. And she had to interact with that crew almost as if they were a family as to one, because for the most part they were a family. It was almost a generational ship. I like Voyager. I didn't like her the first year. It took her a year or two for her to get her stride, but after a while I really like Voyager. Yeah, I probably gave way too much information. Voyager's still my favorite. I only watched about 15 minutes. I couldn't take it anymore. I don't want it to be tainted. I should just see it for myself. Yeah, dude, just look at it for yourself. A lot of people are giving it a lot of hate. Just look at it for yourself. It's still Star Trek. Of course, dude, early on Janeway had sex appeal, but they striped it away from her. Gave her a role to 7 to 9 and also to Chakotay. No. I don't agree with that one. They weren't trying to write the role as Janeway as being sexy. You're just being a guy. Like, I know what you mean. You're being biased. Now, you're not being biased because you're trying to be biased. You're being biased just because you're a male. You saw her in that position and you're thinking the same way that I'm thinking just because you're being a guy. Now, 7 and 9 comes onto it and it's like, oh, additional eye candy. Janeway's role wasn't meant to be sexy. Her role was to be captain of the Starship of Starship Voyager. That's it. Anything else that you ascribed to her was purely from you. They put her in the captain's uniform. They didn't put her in anything sexy or slinky or anything else. She was just the captain. The sex appeal that you gave her was purely from you. I love that. Perceptions. 7 of 9 comes on. Yeah, 7 of 9 was eye candy. She was eye candy. There was no way around it. She was eye candy. The stuff that they were putting her in, the stuff that she was wearing, the stuff that she was wearing, she was eye candy. Let's be honest. Yes, the actress herself spoke to the fact that many of the facets of the character were given a 7 of 9. She wasn't a sexual character, but she was meant to be appealing. She was appealing. She was the captain of the ship. I'm just saying, I think the dominance of that role. There was also, look, one of the things I really like about Janeway, I really like about Janeway, I like it when women are allowed to be women. I love it when women are allowed to be women. What I mean is, I think I've said this before, there's an aspect of women, this kind of femininity thing. That's not a bad thing. Oftentimes when you get into leadership positions, they try to weed that away and push that away and try to be hard because, you know, this idea of force and might is this powerful and good thing. It's easy to defend a position if you were strong in making the position. It's a little bit harder to defend it when you're being somewhat compassionate. That's always been the case. Being compassionate, for the most part, is a political liability to some respects, even when that compassion is necessary and that compassion is good. In Janeway's case, she was compassionate. She was a woman. She behaved as if she was a woman. There were times where she needed to be a hard ass, but that was contextual and dependent upon the situation. ultimately she had latitude. I think that latitude was a positive thing. How she interacted with Seven of Nine was an interaction that I couldn't necessarily see from any other characters in the Star Trek universe. I don't see another man interacting with Seven of Nine in that way unless that man was trying to have sex with Seven of Nine. I'm sorry, it's true. Men can be tender, fair enough. If it's a man and a child, yes, a man can be tender and so forth. But it's something else. I can't put my finger on it. It's difficult to describe. But when you know it when you see it. The way she interacted with Seven of Nine was this kind of... She wasn't a mom. It wasn't that. It was something else. But there was a compassion there that was specific to women. That's all. That's all. I like it when women can be women. I don't think compassion is a bad thing. And I don't think that's an aspect that we have in our politics. Like, you have somebody like Hillary Clinton who's running, and for the most part, she tries to out-hawk the most hawkish guy. Be yourself. Be who you are. Now, that may be who she is, but I'm saying, in Star Trek universe, for the most part, she's allowed to be who she is. I like it. That's part I like. I do like. Oh, God. We have a bunch of men now. Who was Hatter? 7 of 9 on T'Pol and the Enterprise of the Vulcan female. I don't even want to answer that question because I feel it. Oh, fuck it. It's situational dependent. There were times where T'Pol was attractive. There were times where... Oh, okay. Both were attractive. Yeah, both were attractive. Yeah, I don't know. I can't answer that question. That's a difficult question to ask. That's a difficult question to answer. In Voyager, Janeway was played by a different person. The lady who was going to play her quit after one day. Then Kate Mulgrew took over that role, and she was under the watchful eye of the studio. She did an amazing job, if that's true. It's probably true, but she did an amazing job. She owned that character. She absolutely owned that character. They were both about the same hotness. Yeah, we have guys now. I'm sorry, women. I'm sorry, ladies. I'm sorry, ladies. You have a bunch of guys who just... I think they were about the same hotness. I think they were about the same hotness. Yeah. I'm sorry. Great talk, Jamal. You kept me company and free from road rage and traffic jam. I would give up driving in a New York minute. Oh, thank you, Karen Rose. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. Oh, wow. This has been an hour and 30. All right. I am going to call this a day. Karen Rose is at her location. So that's positive. Yeah, that's positive. And so I'm going to use that as my cue. I'm going to get food and do something else. I'm not sure what I get. Yeah, not sure what. I don't even know if I have a different story for tonight. We've floated away from the main story that we were talking about, so that's fine. It's just a live combo. Alright, guys. Shit, I already gave up my car. Cisco in command of Voyager. Alright. I'm sorry, I got to talk about this one. Garnome. I like to think of captains being a part of a series. Cisco in command of Voyager. That's interesting, right? That's interesting. See, here's the thing, right? You end up in this situation of what is the person willing to do to get their crew back home? That's what it boils down to. Now that's leveraged against these ideals that I hold in regards to Starfleet and humanism. Now, if things get bad enough, will the captain of the ship be willing to just let that ship expire? Meaning, there are some lines I'm not willing to cross in order to get my crew home. We've seen a scenario where a person was in a really bad situation where that captain was doing really nasty things. He was taking life forms and using those life forms for energy production in order to get back home. That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. I don't know what Cisco's limits are. Cisco was willing to kill that Romulan in order and set a bomb on it. But he didn't do it, if you remember. Cisco didn't do it. The Cardassian did it. Garrick did it. Not Garrick. it's Gary, I think it's his name, the tailor, the one who was a tailor, but he's like a Cardassian spy or Cardassian functionary or whatever. He the one who did it. Now, Sisko allowed him to do it, and Sisko did a lot of unethical things in the pursuant to that guy doing it. And Sisko may, on some level, knew exactly what he was going to do. But Sisko himself could not bring himself to physically do it. Meaning, is losing the war, how can I say this? Is Sisko's honor more important to him than actually winning the war? Now, if he had somebody else to do it for him, and then Sisko could say, technically, I didn't necessarily get my hands dirty, but yes, I understood what was taking place and allowed it. You know, you have all that going on. The question becomes, what if the Cardassian wasn't there? Would that option have presented itself? And the answer to that question is probably no. Sisko probably wouldn't have did it if that particular guy wasn't there. In fact, Sisko probably wouldn't have even thought about it. But again, that's why you have Section 31. Catherine Hoare is a gentleman. I try so hard to think that the male single-minded pursuit of sex is bigotry, but you prove it wrong every time. I saw it taking place in real time. Somebody was like, wait a minute, who do you think was hotter? And then the conversation completely diverged from one thing to, I can't choose between who's hotter. I think that one is hotter. I think that one is hotter. I think 79 might have been a little hotter. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. With Sisko trade tech, if you remember, Janeway wouldn't do it either. Janeway wouldn't trade tech. Like, it took Tuvok to do it. Tuvok made the logical choice of, you can't do this, so I have to do this for you. It was like an out. The question becomes, would those crews have outs that would allow the captain to do XYZ? Meaning, the captain themselves may not necessarily be able to do it, but the captain, if somebody is on that crew that's a little bit more morally gray, captain will let it ride. Ew, I love talking about Star Trek. I love talking about Star Trek. I like to think it's a myth, but you always prove me true. No, I understood what you meant. I totally understood what you meant. I like to think that it's a myth, but you always prove it true. Yeah, I don't think that's a myth. Yeah, I don't think it's a myth. I don't think it's a myth. I don't think integrity grows on trees. I'll put it that way. I think. Look, my trick on this, because I realize I'm a guy and I'm fallible, and I start off usually with the thing of my wife and I, XYZ. At the very least, in any conversation, everybody for the most part knows I have a wife. Now, that has nothing to do with anybody else. That has everything to do with me keeping myself honest. it's how I acknowledge that as being a guy is difficult. In essence, yes. Yeah, your mind is not necessarily your own on that front. It's easy to be strayed by thoughts in the sense of the same way these guys are, you know, just, hey, who's hotter? Who's hotter? Is this person or that person? I can make the case that it's a person thing, but I don't necessarily know how women regard this. I don't know how their mind works. I can postulate behavior when we're talking about, you know, this particular thing is driving this particular behavior. But I gotta be honest, I don't know how women think on this front. I don't know if they think about sex to that degree, if that makes sense. Oh God, this is getting an interesting conversation. Zox, ox, it's just sex. That's true, it's just sex. We put too much around it, I think. I do think that, don't get me wrong, I think we put too much around sex. I don't understand how our society does it, but we drill this thing into us that makes it this unique and specific and special thing. Yeah, I don't know how women's brain works on this one, so I don't necessarily know if this is just a human thing or if it's just a guy thing. Garnome, it's all just natural behavior. There's nothing wrong with it as long as you aren't dehumanizing women. No, I agree. That's true. No, I agree with that. That's not it. I'm more so talking about how women see this stuff. Like, yeah, this is a deviation, but this is an interesting deviation, I think, because we're talking about the human beings, men and women in general. Feeling my feministic oats for the moment and trying to get into the head of women. I don't know if women's brains work in the same way with regards to sex as men's do. Now, what I would say is, I know in a specific context it does. And I need to explain that. What I mean is, I don't necessarily think guys just continuously think about sex all the time. I think something happens and it shifts it into a context. Now, if it's me, I have a hard time with my brain settling down in general. And so I need to be shifted into that context. I would imagine that if women get into a very particular context, then yes, they're in the same wavelength. The question becomes, are they God, I don't know why I'm having a hard time saying this. Yeah, this is sad. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm saying this is mentally poorly. I'm sorry. I don't like it's like using the words for whatever reason. There's this cultural programming in me that's kicking in. That's clouding the things or the words that I use. All right. Fuck it. Let's be unleashed. I don't know if women think about sex in the same way that men do. Now, there's certain things that I can describe to women just in my own interactions with them that I can say, okay, I think this is true. But I don't know, in the same way that guys would look at the last thing and they'll just start comparing, like, who you think is hotter. Now, they're on a lefty website. Let's just say lefty. This is a far left site. And the guys are still like, which one do you think is hotter? I don't know. Which one do you think is hotter? I think they're about the same equal hotness. Fuck the other people who are on the conversation. Let's just have this conversation about who's hotter. Now, I don't know if you're having a woman's thing, if that will come up in that way. That's all I'm getting at. I don't know if women regard that stuff in that particular way. Yes, I do know that at a certain point, if my wife is watching Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, yes, she gets a little riled up in her seat. But if we weren't having the conversation about Hugh Jackman, I don't necessarily know if she would just be judging guys in that way. But I could be wrong. Most men and women think about sex differently. Some women think about sex as men do, and vice versa. Yeah, it just depends on the person, I guess. Men think about sex way more because they have millions of reproductive cells in conception, whereas a woman only has an egg. It's built in. So this is my normal logic for this stuff. If the behavior is somewhat just normal, ingrained behavior, then the issue is not the behavior itself. The issue is the way people perceive the behavior. Meaning, it's not that men are problematic on this front. It's just the way the society is arranged. We have this idea of marriage. We have this idea of one person, one man being with one woman for all this time and all this stuff. That stuff is insane. That stuff is just cultural identity. Now, don't tell Miss Thomas I said that. I would imagine Miss Thomas at this point knows that I think this stuff is purely just cultural and it's not necessarily real. The bond that you make, however, is real. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I don't want Miss Thomas kick down the door and coming after me with a hatchet. The bond that you make is real. But the cultural ties and everything else, and the fact that the bond is being made in and of itself, is not real. Those things are just cultural ties. Now you say, yes, I'm going to be with this person for God knows how long. That's insane. To some degree, it's insane. Part of that comes along from this idea because you need a certain level of safety in your society, and if you had a better social safety net, then those type of things may fall to the side, and you just have more partners. You know, the sex becomes a little bit more free-willing. But I don't think this is crazy to say it's 3 people together, 4 people together, 5 people together, whatever. Have at it. Have at it. This stuff is just culture. Oh, God, no one wanted to buy Mrs. Thomas a heavy frying pan. Oh, man. Can't think about anything sexual with Hillary on the screen. Really, sexual attitudes are on a gradient. That's true, God, no, I agree. No, she doesn't need a frying pan. She knows I believe in that. That being said, I think, look, your society is built in a particular way. And in building that particular way, it gets across certain ideas into the people of that society. One of those ideas is marriage. One of those ideas are kids. Now, the ideas of kids make sense because you need to propagate the species, and this society needs to be able to replenish itself. Marriage, to some degree, makes sense, particularly if you're looking at this thing of, okay, what kind of unit are we going to have this kid in? Would more people be better if you're trying to raise a kid? Yes. Yes, more than 2. Yes, I agree. If you had a society that had a better social safety net, meaning there is no chance of you being impoverished. Does the idea of marriage start to lose a bit of value? Yes. Now here's the thing. If you have a kid with somebody, then yes, of course, you're going to have some situation where you need to take care of the kid. So there's a natural component in regards to two people coming together in order to, fund the family or whatever else. But the attitudes towards this stuff seems to be immensely cultural. Like it's not real. At least I don't think it's real. Listen to the fear in his voice. She doesn't need a frying pan. Oh man, her and I've had this conversation. She knows what I think on it. She knows what I think. Yeah, she knows what I think. She knows I'm an oddball. I'm an oddball. I look at this stuff and think none of it's real. Human beings are real. Society, the environment is real. This other stuff is just cultural stuff that we wrap around ourselves. Yeah, a lot of stuff is just cultural stuff we wrap around ourselves. Some of it is real, some of it is cultural. The kid that you have, yes, that's real. The responsibility and ties that you have towards the kid, yes, it's also real. But you can have your society arranged in all sorts of ways with regards to dealing with kids. We're just arranged in this particular way. How we interact with one another with sex is cultural. That's not real. The reality of it is, I don't want to say it. This idea of being with somebody for the entirety of your life is a little strange to me. Unless you guys actually want to be together. What I mean by this is, oftentimes you find couples who hate each other. Like, you find a situation where it's like, as these people are together, they become more and more and more like bitter in one another. I don't know any marriages that have lasted. Maybe one. And those people got together when they were far, far later in life. So yes, you can imagine that makes me someone hesitant to get married. Right off the bat, I'm perfectly be okay being left to my own devices and being independent. And two, yeah, I kind of think it's just purely this kind of cultural artifact. Now, Miss Thomas doesn't necessarily carry that belief. And if I wanted to be with Miss Thomas, we came to two agreements. One, within 5 years, and I think I said within 5 years, we'd be married, and within 5 years we were. Because at a certain point, it's like, I don't see myself with anyone else. I don't see it. So even though I don't know any marriages that worked, fuck it, let's light this candle. Let's make this shit work. I don't see myself with anybody else. Now, second part to that though is, I love to travel, meaning there's a certain level of independence that I need to have if we're going to be in a relationship together. And that travel doesn't necessarily mean me by myself. There are trips I want to take by myself, by the way, because I don't necessarily think they're safe for her to come with me. But all things being equal, this idea of travel and everything else, she agreed to go with. That's all I wanted. She wants a kid, which, yes, I understood. And I don't think I'm necessarily against. But again, to me, this is kind of a cultural artifact that's expensive, and they're not necessarily bundles of joy. I get my travel, she gets her kid. That's our arrangement. That's our agreement. And on a personal level, it does not matter if one prefers monogamy because of cultural reasons or genetic reasons. If it's what you want to do, then do it. Exactly, right there. That's the truth of it. If it's 3 of you who wants to get together, have at it. If it's 4 of you, have at it. If it's 5, have at it. If you want to go throughout your life by yourself, have at it. If you want to be have a burn existence and not leave anything behind you when you leave, have at it. It's choice. You're beings of choice. One of the most important features that a mate has to have for me is a love of Star Trek. I am in no way kidding. John Crab 67. There is a special joy. There's a very special joy of having your other, your significant other, the love of your life, the person who you chose to, settle down with, watching Star Trek for the first time, and you're experiencing there watching the Star Trek for the first time. Now, this can go immensely bad if the person is like, what the fuck is this? Why are they doing that? So, fair enough. but it can also go immensely well. I love the first episode. Like, I don't know if I have this childish view of the first episode of Star Trek. It's like, have you ever, I'm trying to think of a comparison. There are times as a child that are ensconced in your mind. And because it happened when you were a child and it happened from that particular point of view, it's ensconced in your mind in that very particular point of view. It's like having a crush on somebody who was in, you know, junior high, meeting that person in their 30s, and you still having this crush on them as if they were still the same person in junior high. It's how you feel about the show. There's the first episode of Next Generation. You don't know who the captain is. At least I didn't, that originally. And they don't show you who he is right off the bat. You only hear his voice. And Jean-Luc Picard is this actor, it's a Shakespearean actor. And as he does Picard, he does it as if he's doing a Shakespearean role. So he does it with this gravity associated with the character. It's fucking amazing at that role. Can't imagine anybody else being in that role. And he's given, you know, no man, you know, going the distance that no man is going before. These are the voyages, Star Trek Enterprise, etc., etc. And they don't show him right off the bat. You just hear his voice. And then finally you see him. The captain of the new Enterprise. He's bald. He's fit. He's slim. He's in this, you know, these pajamas. And he fits the role. He's not Kirk. He is a different entity than Kirk. But he fits the role. And you proceed to watch that show, and they throw you in the deep end on show 1. Yes, I'm a fanboy for this. I love Star Trek. They throw you in the deep end on show 1. They have Q sitting on the bridge of the Enterprise, and Jean-Luc Picard looks at them with this wonder and with this fascination. Most people would be terrified at this point. You have this thing that just appeared on your ship. Humanity has grown up. Humanity has grown up. He's a rational human being. He understands that there are things that he don't necessarily know. There are things that he knows, there are things that he don't know. And even among the things that he knows there's a certain amount of ambiguity built into those things. There's a certain amount of hard science, physical science, dealing with physical materiality that they've accumulated over the course of all this time together. But he understands that there are races that manipulate the forces of our universe in ways that he don't fully understand. This being appears on his ship. Doesn't understand the technology. He doesn't understand what the being is. He understands that the image that the being is taken for the most part is not necessarily what the being is. He's not scared. He just asks, what sort of being are you? Now, I say this, yes, I'm a fanboy in this. I have this immense amount of wonder when I watch this show. And if you're watching it with somebody who's never watched it, and there's a light in their eyes that shines of, wow, that's amazing. That's fucking awesome. And they start to think to themselves, hey, what sort of being is this guy? Where is this guy coming from? What technology is this guy using? Do you honestly believe that that person can do that for real? Well, I don't know. Science is only 100, 200 years old. Do you honestly, it's like, how can you say that he couldn't do it? You find out that this is some kind of extra dimensional being. And the person who's sitting beside you, maybe for the first time in their life, has said, extra what? And you say extra dimensional, meaning they exist in a dimension outside of the normal physical matter reality and space-time that we exist in. They're external to us. Wow, they're external to us, and that person starts to think about it. Now, if this is what's taking place, then that's the person you're going to marry, providing that the person doesn't have any other atrocious and horrible fucking habits. If that's not what's taking place, get rid of her. Ditch her. Get rid of her as fast as possible. You're a guy, so if you need to have sex with her, do that, but get rid of her afterwards. Okay, that's wrong. I'm sorry. I'm joking as a guy. Even Picard was so humanized that we watched him cry over his family burning to death. What? I love Picard and Q. I love Picard and Q too. Even Picard was so humanized that we watched him cry over his family burning to death. Ultimately, Picard was a tragic character. Think about the flute too. He's not a tragic character. What are you talking about? He's Jean-Luc Picard. He's just a person. You can make an argument that everyone is a tragic character if you're going to make that case that Picard is a tragic character. Come on. I have 3 children. I love them equally, but one of them likes Star Trek. Deep Space Nine is his favorite. As for the other 2, I don't know where I went wrong. I lose sleep over the issue. John Crap. Deep Space Nine is good. Deep Space Nine is really good. Now, not the first few seasons. I didn't like the first few seasons. But when they get into the war, oh man, that is some of the best Star Trek in Star Trek lore. Like, when you're talking about the Dominion War, and you have these spit and polished Star Trek characters who need to make choices that are no right answers. That's the catch. Like, that's what it boils down to. What do you do when shit hits the fan? And you get to see these spit and polished Star Trek characters do what they need to do in order to win that war. Yeah, man, that's a fucking amazing series. Catherine Horace, I took the episode with the flute as bittersweet. Yes, the culture is no more, but yes, he is a privilege. That was one of my favorite episodes, by the way. I even downloaded the soundtrack to that. That's how much I love that thing. I love the way that flute was being played. One of my favorites, hands down. So, in case somebody or the people who are looking at this don't know what the hell we're talking about, there's an episode in Star Trek Next Generation where Picard is hit by this beam from a satellite of just floating in space. And Picard wakes up in the life of a person and lives the entirety of that person's life. Now, at a certain point, he stops. They keep telling him in that life space, there was no ship. There was no Enterprise. You were born here. You're just having some kind of mental fuck up. And at a certain point, when he wakes up day after day after day after day, living the life of this particular person, he accepts it. Okay, there was no Enterprise. I had brain fart. There was no Enterprise. Only to find out at the very end of his life, after spending, 60, 70 years, how many ever years, yes, there was an Enterprise. We gave you this because this is the way we transfer information about our civilization. And during that entire time, he learned to play the flute. Now, there's a particular song that he worked on for the entirety of his life. And granted, I know it's not one song, but ultimately it was cut through as one song. It was a sad episode. But at the same token, nobody makes that alive. Like, there is no situation. All of us. When you buy a puppy, that puppy is going to die. In the same way that you have a kid, that kid was born, that kid is going to die. Death is not necessarily this goblin that rips away things from you. The problem is your perception of it. I understand that there are people who are close to you, and of course you don't necessarily want anybody to leave. Your idea of being a person in and of itself is this thing of connections. But everything passes. It's not good or bad, it just is. If that makes sense. The good or bad is only associated with the person who wants that particular thing to stay or not to be there. It doesn't actually exist. It's a perspective. His only family, Picard straight up said the Picard line was going to die with him. More tragedy. You understand, everything at some point is going to end. Earth is what? One astronomical unit is the distance between the Earth to the Sun. At some point, the Sun is going to burn through one element after the next, and expanding as it burns through those elements, reaching to the point of subsuming Earth. Meaning at some point, Earth is not going to be here. It's going to collapse into itself when it reaches iron, but at some point it is going to expand out into where we are right now. Even us will be dust. It may take millions of years, but it will happen. It looks bad from our perspective, that's all. His nephew, his brother, and sister-in-law, and Dex. I can't see anything other than a tragic character. I live in Alabama. A lot of people think I'm from somewhere north. They ask me about my accent. I tell them I watched a lot of Star Trek when I was a kid. I learned how to speak Spock early on. That's awesome. Yeah, dude, but we aren't talking about theater nor reality. A tragic character is a convention, and Picard is one. I don't take him as a tragic character. I guess I don't see it. I don't see it. I can... How is Picard different from any other person? If that's the case. If that's the argument, then everybody's a tragic character. Like, there's no way around it. Everybody reaches bad ends at some point. That's the part where I miss. Picard was far from a tragic figure. He had a rich life. I guess that's what I'm getting at. You're just talking about what takes place over the course of a life. If you looked at anybody's life in some level of examination, you're going to see, if by those standards, a tragic character. That's all I'm getting at. Yeah, man, anybody's life. Anybody's life. As a human being, it's odd when I think about a time to say 200 years ago when I did not exist, and 200 years from now when I won't exist. It's actually hard to understand as humans. Yeah, it is, right? It's interesting. There is a time frame that you weren't here, and your awareness and everything else was not here. And there will be a time frame where you would fall out of existence. The game piece knocked off the board. There will be an instant in between the time that you're leaving this space versus the time where you're gone. Like, yeah, I find this show fascinating. I find it fascinating. I love the dynamic in the relationship between Jean-Luc Picard and Beverly Crusher. There was some sexual tension. Yes, there was. Yes, there was. Oh my God, there was. There's several episodes where they're, you know, sitting there eating together or drinking together, and there's this kind of soft relationship that if Jean-Luc Picard winked at Beverly Crusher in any particular way, she would have jumped him in a heartbeat. There's an episode, I don't know if you remember it, where Jean-Luc Picard was inhabited by somebody else, and he was being a little bit sexually aggressive with Beverly Crusher, and Beverly Crusher was on board. She was all aboard. He didn't have to ask her twice. She was like, oh, is this what's going on now? When he came back to his senses, and she was like, oh, so we're not this is not taking place. Yeah, there was tension. There was a soft tension there. That's just it, man. He had a gravity about him. I loved his character. Absolutely loved that character. He was a tightwad in some respects, but at the same token, honest, fair, a humanist to an emancipatory degree. Yeah, he was an amazing character. He was an amazing character. Not preaching, but I believe the best part of being happens after the body dies. Yeah, I mean, we don't know what it is. Yes, and then it's revealed later that Picard had a crush on Crusher when she was married. I know, yeah. I know. I know. He's a person. He's a person. He's just a person. Like, that's what I mean. Like, he's just a person, man. That's all I mean. As a human being. Alright, as a human being. I have no expectation at all that my wife is not going to bump into somebody at the gas station. She may think that guy's attractive. No expectation. I don't expect her to be a saint. I don't expect her to be superhuman. I expect her to keep her wedding vows, yes. But do I expect her to not be a human being and not to recognize that somebody may be attractive or you may be, you know? I don't. Of course Picard is going to have a crush on Beverly Crusher because she's attractive. Her last name is even Crusher. Now, I don't know what that has to do with anything. It probably has nothing to do with it. But yeah, he's a person. He's a person. Picard got married, though. Hillary will still be trying to become president. She may even go use colonial technology if necessary. She won't go away. She's gonna... They're gonna reinvigorate her dead body 200 years from now. A bunch of hillbots looking back on time. A bunch of confused people who see her speech and think she's being honest because they no longer has the ability to discern people who are lying through their teeth. Oh God, I feel sorry for him. God bless him. God, yeah, I feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for him. Picard was a well-developed character regardless of anyone else's take on it. Yes, he was. He was an amazingly well-developed character. I mean, you even had this thing, like, the level of self-control and everything else. There was a scene where this woman who was a femme fatale, like, built to be a femme fatale, built and constructed to be whatever a man's desires her to be. Now, whatever you want to say from a feminist standpoint, you can say, you know, Star Trek can go fuck itself. Fair enough. But when confronted with this, Picard held his gumption. Like, it was amazing. Like, he had this superhuman level of, I'm going to be a dignified Star Trek officer, and I'm not going to let this woman jump me, nor am I going to jump this woman, and I'm going to deal with her. And the entire show, there was this soft sexual tension that you knew was there. You knew she was feeling for him. The woman who was playing that role did an amazing fucking job playing that role. And Picard, to his credit, at least as the show tells it, because we don't know if it's true, but at least as the show tells it, held his stuff, didn't touch her, ferried her on to where she was supposed to go. There was this awesome scene when Beverly Crusher is like, you don't think it's wrong? Like, Beverly Crusher was being a feminist in this. I have issues with them ferrying this woman from point A to point B in this way and giving her over in this way. And Picard is like, it's not for me to judge. It's not for me to judge. It's not for me to judge. That was an amazing show. I love it. I love it. Crusher and Picard were married and divorced in an alternate universe. He was suffering from dementia. Yeah, you know, that's the main timeline. The dementia thing was the main timeline. Q allowed him to float between those 3 different time periods, and it showed that as he got older, he ended up with dementia. Yeah. My issue with Worf is that he always talked about what a warrior he was, but always got his ass kicked. He did not. Yappa. Worf never got his ass kicked unless he was dealing with a super being. Now, what I mean by super being was somebody who, like, for instance, if he was fighting Data, then yes, Data is going to beat the shit out of him. If he was fighting Lore, then yes, Lore is going to beat the shit out of him. Lore is an android. He is, you know, he's powered and all this other stuff. But if you think about it, anybody who Worf fought that was not a super being, Worf whipped their ass. Do you remember one of my favorite episodes, Deep Space Nine? God, you turned me into a fanboy. Deep Space Nine. Worf is captured. And as he's being captured, Jem'Hadar is using him for fighting practice because the other ones have essentially been beat to hell. And Worf, with this idea of honor, goes through one of their people after the next. He's beating the shit out of one after the next. And as he's doing this, he's taking injury, one injury after the next. His arm, his ribs are broken. And Worf continues to get up and continues to fight and continues to put down one Jem'Hadar after the next. He's sitting back, hurt. He's in pain. He's in a lot of pain. But he's a goddamn Klingon warrior, and he's not going to tell you he's in pain. He's just going to suck it up. And the doctor's trying to mend his bruises and broken bones with essentially, you know, just he ripped his, you know, cloth or whatever. And one of the warriors there, General Martov, is looking at Worf, and he's like, I know what you're doing. Don't do it. Because Worf was going to go out there and is going to essentially die on the mat, because that's what a Klingon warrior is supposed to do. And he gets out there, and even though he has these broken bones, even though he's hurt, even though he's mangled, he says, who's next? Who is my next challenger? Who next will you put before me? And there was nobody else. The person who was going to put him for him says, I am the only one that's next. You'll be fighting me. I am king shit. And he beats the shit out of Worf. He proceeds to put him down over and over and over again. And Worf continues to try to get up over and over and over again. It gets to the point that General Martov looks at him and says, your honor has been sufficed. Your honor is sufficed. You don't have to get up. Stop getting up. You don't have to do it anymore. And Worf gets up once more time. One of the guys who's in charge, Devorta, gets sick of this. He gets sick of seeing Worf getting beat up and knocked down. And he says, just kill him. Just kill him. Just kill him. Just do it. And the Jem'Hadar, who sat there and just beat the shit out of Worf over and over again, turns to him and says, I can't beat this man. I can only kill him. Now, that statement is one of the most epic statements in Star Trek. I cannot beat this man. I can only kill this man. There is a difference in those things. If he's going to continue to get up, I can't beat him. Yes, I can break him in a sense where his body is broken in a way where he can't get up. But Worf will still probably try to wiggle to his feet. I can't beat him. I can't beat him. My goal in this was to actually beat him, was to break him to such a degree that he will not get up, to break his spirit, and I can't do that. I've failed in that mission. Yes, Worf was standing there broken, but I failed in the thing that I wanted to accomplish. And as one warrior to the next, I will do nothing else. Now, the Voyager kills that Jemadar because the Jemadar didn't follow orders. But the Jemadar kind of had a point. The reality that the Jemadar was living and the reality that the Worf was living were for the most part the same. Both of them were warriors. And Worf, to his credit, looked at this as, I have my honor. And if I have nothing else, I have my honor. I've been bred and I'm going to be an Uber Cleon and I'm going to die here on this mat fighting. Worf is a badass, man. He may have personality issues growing up in a human family being a Cleon. Fair enough. But he's a goddamn badass. Yes, I'm a fanboy for Worf to some degree. Yes, Worf neglected and abandoned him. Worf's son was tragic. Yeah, Worf did neglect and abandon him. He did. He was a deadbeat dad. The episode where Picard went back and didn't get stabbed in the heart showed what he would have been like if not for the tragic character. Yes. 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 And look, just because you got stabbed in the heart doesn't necessarily mean you're a tragic character in that sense. People have bad shit happen to them all the time. It just makes them who they are. I would argue that this is simply a different type of tragedy, Trudy. Yeah, that's not what he's talking about technically. Is Jean-Luc Picard here? Q. Is Jean-Luc Picard? Pickard, right. Right, Jean-Luc Pickard. Puckard. Right. That's funny. One of my favorite episodes, Zox. At first he was an annoying brat, then he was an incompetent warrior. Yeah, you're talking about Alexander, Worf's kid, yeah. Yeah, Worf was saddened by that, man. I mean, there was a whole plot thread where they went back in time in order to, get his son up to snuff and all. Yeah. Again, Interlight episode where he marries his wife, dies, but when he wakes, he up on deck in an episode in which he learns to play the flute. Yeah. Yeah, that was a good episode. Worf beat a lot of ass. I can't remember any normals beating him. Me either. Thank you, Gardome. Thank you. Thank you. Somebody standing up for Worf. He was a deadbeat dad, but somebody stands up for Worf. Trudy Caswell. There was also the woman he fell for, but had to let her go because of not being able to send her to death. Fell for, but had to let her go because of not being able to send. Are you talking about Kirk? I think you're talking to Kirk. There was an episode where McCoy got sprayed by something, lost his mind, beamed to a planet, and jumped through a portal. Now, yes, that's a little over the top, but it was Star Trek, the original series. Kirk and Spock went behind him. Kirk fell in love with a woman, but realized that woman had to die in order to maintain the timeline. That was a sad episode. Kirk, doing his typical overacting, grabbed Spock, hugged him, and wept openly in his Vulcan friend's in his arms. Oh man, that was awesome episode. Like, sometimes when you think about how over the top Kirk's acting was, man, it's fucking amazing. It's a thing to behold. And the idea that he's weeping in Spock's arms is amazing. It's amazing. I love it. Spock, this Vulcan, is like, I don't understand what's taking place here, but Kirk has just grabbed him and weeping. He's just weeping. Episode with Joan Collins, written by Harlan Ellis. I would have easily become addicted to the holodeck, no question. Yeah, a lot of them did. Like, there was holodeck sickness. People who, for the most part, couldn't necessarily discern their reality from the holodeck itself. And let's be honest. Let's be brutally, brutally honest. I'm talking to the men here. And yes, women too. I think it's a person thing. I don't think it's a man or woman thing. Are you telling me that if you had a holodeck, and you know where this is going, if you had a holodeck, and you had complete privacy in that holodeck, and you can do whatever you wanted and make whatever you wanted in that holodeck, are you telling me that some dirty, freaky stuff would not be going on in that holodeck? They would have to scrub that thing down like twice a day. Oh man, that's going to be a seedy holodeck, dude. That's all I'm saying. That's going to be a mentally seedy holodeck. That's going to be gross. If you remember, Barclay had holodeck sickness. They call it holodeck sickness. But ultimately, Barclay would get his jollies off with members of the crew. So it is implied that he was having sex with a copy of Deanna Troi, probably Beverly Crusher. At the same token, he was beating the shit out of Wesley Crusher and some of the other ones on the deck because he was, intimidated in real life. Yeah, of course that's going to take place. He's a human being. I can see that being the norm. Yeah, I can see that almost being the norm more than anything else. I recently, John Crab, time to sanitize the holodeck again. Yeah, right, Cardo. Time to sanitize the holodeck again. Yes, time to sanitize the holodeck. John Crab 67. I recently tried to figure out the day that I watched the very first episode that I've ever seen. It would have been in the 70s or 73. The episode is where no man has gone before, just so I know that day. John Dome, yes, remember this was PG TV. If the Barkley story had more realistic, it would have been able to sympathize with him as a character. Yeah. But that would have been bad things happening to Deanna Troi, let's be honest. There would have been very bad things happening to Deanna Troi. And I would imagine not just by Barkley, but a lot of people in the crew. They would have had to, they would have had to put a lock on that character. Okay, I'm sorry. This is diverging. This is way going diverging. Every dude on that crew was having sex with that character. Yeah, that's my point. That's my point. I'm sorry. But that is my point, yes. That's my point. That is my point. They would have had to put a lock on that character, saying you can't have any of the characters that are on that crew, on that ship. Yes. Chris Bailey, quaternary flush of the holodeck on an hourly basis. Yes, you're flushing the holodeck constantly. Lessons was the episode where he fell for the piano player. That was a good one too. Where he was playing the flute, she was playing the piano. That was really good. Picard has had all the ladies take a naked 3D scan on the first day. I don't think Picard would have did that. No, not Picard. Riker, yes, not Picard. They would have been in line outside the decks, people fighting. Yes, I would hope that they were more rational. Yeah, fuck it, they're still human beings. Yeah, they would have been in line out that deck, out the holodeck. But they would have had multiple holodecks. They would have had other things of activities that people could have gotten involved in. I would imagine that there was probably a negative tint on this idea of having sex with holodecks characters. I would imagine there would have had to be some kind of cultural thing that would have prevented people from doing it. Yeah, this has gotten to be a very seedy conversation. They would have been in line outside the decks, people fighting. The next generation would have been 30 holodecks one place to eat. Well, you could have eaten in your room. You know, the machines themselves make all the food that you want. They had replicators. Half the power system would have been devoted to holodecks just to preserve order. You are on a starship. But you have families on a starship. I would imagine, just for myself, if I was married to Miss Thomas, and Miss Thomas came to the holodeck, and it was locked, meaning the holodeck said private, I would imagine Miss Thomas' first question would have been, why is the holodeck locked? Now, you would have things to explain if you were married and you're on that Enterprise. Now, you could do it. You can get away with it. You can set your schedule on the holodeck at times where your wife is somewhere else. All those things are true. You can make up, you know, whatever you need to do. But let's be honest. And I'm thinking about this from the perspective of a guy. What about the perspective of a woman? Oh my Jesus Christ. Do you remember in God, this is getting immensely seedy. Ladies, I am so sorry. This is getting immensely seedy. Do you remember The Watchmen? And there was an episode where Dr. Manhattan had split himself into multiple partners to satisfy his wife. Now, she was like, whoa, I don't need this time. Meaning that there was some point where she didn't need that. Now, under normal circumstances, I would imagine if your wife came to you, most guys would have issues with, say, you know, this idea of something in them. Just being bred in this culture wouldn't necessarily allow this idea of, hey, I need 3 guys. You could be there, but I need 2 others. I need to be satisfied in a very particular way. Most guys don't take that well. Even the best of us don't take that well. Now, if you had a holodeck, and if she had a holodeck, she can have as many guys as she wants, and the husband would have to be none the wiser. And your relationship can keep ticking on with your wife perfectly satisfied. Now, the question becomes, if you find out, does your ego survive? Does your ego survive? I would like to say I'm as open-minded as the next guy, probably more so. I would like to say that even with this idea of saying this stuff isn't real and a lot of stuff is culture and all this other stuff, I would argue that people, we are viciously protective of our wives and our husbands. And I can understand why. Now, some of that, let's be honest, I know Garnome said that some of it is culture, some of it's not. This idea of a person being with a singular person for their life, that's cultural. That's purely cultural. That's not God-made. That's something that we ourselves, for the most part, wrap ourselves around. Is it possible? Is it possible to any degree that's possible that some of the relationships that people have in their marriages will work better if there was another partner sometimes? Yes, I'm saying this. I'm going there. Now, I'm not good enough to be that person. Meaning, like, I am not, even though I'm posing this kind of philosophical talking point, I am rooted in my culture. I am immensely rooted in this culture. Meaning, even though I understand that this is programming at work, I understand that the thing that's in my head that I may joke my wife about, even though I'm slightly serious, or there's a 2% seriousness in the conversation I'm having when I'm joking her about so-and-so, like, hey, that guy, you're spending a little bit too much time with that guy, having the conversation, well, whatever. But wouldn't some of these relationships work better in this case? I want to say yes. I want to say maybe sometimes your wife does want to be diddled by multiple guys. Yes, it's going to hurt your ego. But would it make her life better? Maybe. Would she ever mention it? No. Because she understands that it will hurt your ego. I'm just saying these are things that are aspects of being real people that our society, for the most part, are antagonistic towards. That's what I mean when I say it's not real. That's all. That's all. It's too bad that Richard Hatch passed away. Could you imagine Harvey Weinstein with access to Holodeck? Oh, don't go there. Same guy that masturbated in a plant. That's gross. I'd like to think of myself as open-minded, but I don't want to see holojizz on my wife. Me either. Me either. That's gross. That's gross. I don't need to see that. I don't need to see that at all. I think fantasy sex would be very healthy for marriage. I do also. I think sex in general is healthy for marriage. Now, if we're talking about multiple guys and everything else, or multiple women, or multiple guys and women in a relationship and all that other stuff, I also think that's healthy for the relationship, providing that people can deal with it. You have some people who are swingers, and it's like, God bless them. God bless them. God bless them. You have some people who are wired, who want to see their wife get railed by other guys. God bless them. Sometimes you have the person who wants to see his wife railed by another guy. It just so happen marries a wife who wants to be railed by other guys. In which case you have an awesome match. God bless him. My brain isn't wired in that way. My wife's brain isn't wired in that way. I don't know too many people whose brain is wired in that way. Even when you meet people who say, hey, this is just casual. In my experience, it usually turns into something that's not. Dax Jacobson, Trudy Caswell, a crew full of dudes would break the unholy nature. This is going so bad. This is going so bad. Weinstein, maybe he pinned that Star Trek episode with the plant woman. Is so, oh no, gosh. Did you know what happened? People know, just so people know what I'm talking about. There's a scenario where Weinstein ejaculated into a plant. And when he was making sexual advances towards the woman wasn't interested. And he told her, well, you just stand there. And he whacked off into a plant. There is a bravery with a man whacking off in front of a disinterested woman. Because that's breathtakingly not caring about who's in front of you. Like, it's like I would imagine. It's hard enough to just whack off in front of a woman who is interested. Like, he's doing this in front of a woman who's completely disinterested and is horrified at what he's actually doing. And he's just handling his business. And then just blatantly molests the plant afterwards. plant didn't do anything to anybody. Clearly, I text on the next live stream is to get Jamal sidetracked off into Star Trek. I love Star Trek. I'd be in a holodeck with Worf. Oh, you'd be out there having that fight. Oh. Well, yeah. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough, Trudy. Fair enough. Look, man, some women like be roughed up. Worf is your guy if that's what you're looking for. Wait, so I'm not supposed to jerk off into plants? No, Jay, you're not. What are those plants doing, man? Those plants haven't done anything to you. That's what I care about, the plant in the situation. That's all. I care about the plant. That's Henry Youngman joke. My wife said she wants to have sex on the back seat of a car, and she wants me to drive. That's funny. Max Jacobson, don't forget to tell us why you couldn't go to the UFO thing. So that day ended up being somewhat of a fuckfest, including my dog running away and having to find that dog. There's another one planned for November. That Hell or High Water I am going to. The woman sent me an email. She said it was a cloudy day. She said they didn't see anything. She said some people felt something around them, which I can't do anything with. And to be very selfish for the moment, I was kind of happy they didn't see anything while I wasn't there. Like, I would have felt some kind of way if they were to like, oh yeah, we had an amazing outing. God damn it. I was so jealous of Deanna Troi Caswell. Oh, because she had her fling with Worf. Well, in that alternate reality, she had the fling with Worf. He's intense, man. He's intense. I think if I am to, deduce thinking here, even though I know who you are, it's just based on your attraction to Worf. This has nothing to do with his personality. I don't know what you're into in regards to guys, but ultimately what we've seen of Worf is he can rough a woman up in a heartbeat, and he was having sex with what's her name to the point where they were breaking bones. I don't need that, man. I don't need that. I don't need that at all. I don't need that on either way. I don't want my bones broken, nor do I want to break anybody else's bones. And under normal circumstances, we call that abuse. We call that abuse. Progressive soapbox is getting too high for real. I know, right? This is divulged into, just bad stuff, or not bad stuff, or really seedy stuff. We can call it seedy. I'm getting an urge to watch all the Treks again. Me too. I started Enterprise. And my wife was like, I thought you said you were going to watch the Enterprise. I was like, don't fuck with me. You know what this is. This is Enterprise. This is Enterprise. No, he was romantic and sweet. Worf was not. Worf was romantic and sweet until the lights went out. In which case, they can only show you the first few seconds of what was taking place. After that was outright abuse. Outright abuse. If Worf was on Earth, he was been locked up for abuse. She said, okay, I quit. Trudy, I'm teasing. I'm totally teasing. Garnome, I'm not in BDSM. I hate pain. I like BDSM. I don't think BDSM is bad, personally. I like it. Trip Eponzo. I think we call it sadomasochist, actually. Yeah. Look, if you're talking about loyal, if you're talking about Hell or High Water, Worf will kill anything in his room in order to protect his loved one, yes, that's your guy. That's your guy. He is fucking terrifying in essence. If there were 50 guys in the room and there was any harm whatsoever that was going to come to Jadzia Dax, Worf would have murdered each and every person in that room in order to save Jadzia. That is an amazing fucking quality. That's amazing fucking quality. I tell my wife that even though I don't think I can pull it off. I was like, I don't give a shit what takes place. I will murder whatever there is between you and I to make sure you're safe. She doesn't believe me. She doesn't believe me. Red Economics. Yeah, I'm still going. We got to talk about Star Trek. And Trudy Caswell, he was so beautiful. I love that. I love that. I love that. Exactly, Garland. Thus, the set and setting are all important variables. Yeah, that's true. My bad. I said the joke. He was Henry Youngman's. It was Rodney Dangerfield. Rodney Dangerfield. I loved him. I loved him. I was at the tail end of his life. David Carradine went out like a sucker. David Carden. I don't know who David Carden is. That's Jacobson. I think he did kill a few guys. Worf killed a lot of guys. Worf murdered a guy on Deep Space Nine in order to give the leadership to his friend. What's his name? The guy who was in his house, head of his house, General Martok. Worf killed a lot of guys. In fact, Worf, if you remember on Next Generation, the guy who killed Worf's girlfriend, the mother of his kid, Worf, immediately finding out that the mother of his kid was dead, went onto the Klingon ship and murdered the guy in front of his crew. I would not fuck with Worf when it deals with things that he cares about. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I will not leave that cat alone. I would not mess with Worf in that sense at all. I will leave him to his own devices. I think DC might have been murdered, though. Who knows? Yeah, that's another one I don't get. An asphyxiation. Oh, from Kill Bill. Yeah, he offed himself. Look, some of the stuff is just things that we ourselves are wired towards based upon, you know, whatever factors. It could have been something that happened in your childhood that puts something in your head that turns into this kind of attraction thing that you like. So, you know, now you're looking at feet and you're like, holy shit, the freaks are immensely sexy. I kind of want to put her toes in my mouth. In other cases, it's, you know, I want this person to choke the shit out of me as we're having sex. Teach his own. Have at it. Do your thing. Freak yourself out. I am further to the left than most. I have no issues on this. I prefer you not end up dead, because I think that's a crazy way to go out. And I think the cops are going to talk about you when they come and find you. But anything else, have fun. If you want to be tied up, be tied up. Do your thing, man. Yep, I don't hold people's sexual kinks against them. It has nothing to do with me. Yeah, I feel you. What did I walk into? Rebel Cage Rattler. Yeah, man. We're at the deep end of the pool on this one. Or the shallow end of the pool, however you want to say it. This started off as a conversation about holodecks, a conversation about Deanna Troi, a conversation about guys' capacity of looking at women and judging women in this way. And we've arrived at kinks. We arrived at kinks. Yeah, that's where we're at. Always have a spotter. Redneck economics, Stevie. All right, I don't know what you've been into, but fair enough. Stevie says always have a spotter. You may have somebody else in the room while you guys are having your kink. I would say have a safe word. If you want to bring a third person in, bring a third person in. And yes, that person can be a spotter. I would imagine if you're bringing a third person in, that person is going to want to join in, however. But hey, man, do you, man. Rebel Cage Rattler. I kinks. I like kinks, too. God, no, we're in a sewage spillway, not a pool. Yeah, no, we are. We are. You guys are. Yeah, we are. We are. I'm blaming. You guys have dragged me into some brandy talk. Dax Jacobson, you have 30 safe words, I guess. You have 30 safe words. What? What? Just make sure your safe word is not. Yeah, I can't say that. Freaky kinks call for freaky measures. I would say the most strident kink thing that I think I've seen, I thought to myself, oh my God, this woman is being abused. Now, I know she wasn't being abused. And I know this is something that she wanted because this is her sandbox. This is the area to which she plays. But I got to be honest. I watched that and I thought to myself, oh my God, that woman is being abused. And whatever interest I had in watching it kind of went out the window to this kind of compassionate, oh my God, I think the woman is being abused. Now, she wasn't being abused. And you have all people who are in all sorts of stuff, meaning there are people who like all sorts of stuff. This is her sandbox. And so it was a bit intense. Now, she had her safe word. And it's one of those things where it's like, even if the person looks like they're trying to say the safe word, usually you just stop. Or you kind of kill it. You're not trying to kill the person or hurt the person. It never occurred to me to use a spotter. Oh, fair enough, Stevie. Fair enough. Do your thing, Stevie. Freaky kinks call for freaky measures. Rock on. Trudy Caswell. Well then, I hope so. Hillary is at least true. Oh, how do we drag Hillary into this one? God damn it, man. The live streams. Damn it, it jumped on me. Freaky kinks call for freaky measures, right? Well, hopes Hillary's. God damn it, man. Of all the live streams, I'm late into this one. And say it at a brick wall. Rebel Cage Rattler. God, no. The craziest kink. That's a tough one. The craziest kink. Jamal, when your show goes off the rails, it goes way up. Yeah. Yeah. I can't control my audience. Feet is the weirdest kink. No judgments, but I seriously don't get it. Really? Feet is not the weirdest kink. The weirdest kink that I am aware of. There's some gross kinks that it's like I don't know where it comes from. But if you're talking about weirdest kinks, take out the gross kinks for the moment. The fuzzy thing, where people are in these fuzzy outfits, like you would have, like people in these bunny outfits having sex. There's no judgment. Don't get me wrong. There's not a shred of judgment associated with it. If you want to have sex in a bunny outfit, have at it. Do your thing. Rail the hell out of each other. I am not. No judgment. But if you're talking about a little bit of a weird kink, I think that's a bit of a weird kink. That's a slightly weird kink. I don't get foot one either, but I don't think it's super weird. Yeah, me either. Yeah, the furries. Yeah, the furries. Yeah, the furries. I don't get the furries thing. I don't get the furries thing. Feet. Look, feet make sense to me, but let's teach his own. I don't think feet is weird. Yeah, the furries. The furries think it's a little weird to me. Furries think it's a little weird. You're not even seeing body points at that point. Japanese bug porn. Yeah, that's a rough one. That's a rough one. That is a rough one. Rebel Cage Rattler. You're a novice kink. Oh, she's laughing at me. She said, you're a novice kink. I'm a Debbie Wasserman Schultz fetishist. That's guard gnome. He's fetishizing for Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Feet shades of Pulp Fiction. Rebel Cage Rattler says, I am a novice kink. I haven't really said anything about kink in general. The only thing I've said was, I think furries is a little out there. Or at least a foot is part of the body. That's my point. So it's not too hard to see what's up. Yeah, that's my point. That's my point. The wildest kink that's in context for me. Like what I mean is the wildest kink where I can see and I'm like, fair game. I get where that comes from. It's probably bondage within certain limits. Like the power play. I think the power play is sexy. This thing, and maybe, look, I think power exchanges are immensely attractive, just in general, in regards to Randy play. The bondage thing is just a proxy. All of those other things are just proxies. Ultimately, what you're talking about when you're talking about sex is just kind of one person dominating the other person and having their way with the other person. Now, whatever measure or conduit that you're using to make that through, whether it's I'm going to formalize it through BDSM, where I'm going to, it's not just kind of raw emotional thing. It's there are organized methods in which we're going to have play. And yes, there's a certain rawness to it, but ultimately we're just having fun in this kind of adult playground. Or if you're just talking about this kind of raw, animalistic, like the person was talking about Worf, I am having my way with you. I am just going to take what I want. All those things are still power plays. Now, how people play with that power play is where it gets interesting. That's where it gets interesting. Guy screwing balloons simply does not make sense to me. I've never seen that. Phrase is just a mix of sex and fantasy. I think maybe it comes from comic book fans who hit puberty and creates a pun. I have no idea. First Scorpio 82. Nomi loves Debbie Medusa's face. What? Garno, missionary position with the lights on. How can they look in the mirror the next day? There's I can't think of the comedian, but the comedian makes this joke of saying like how you've done such bad things to the other person that you can't look the person in the eye the next morning. It's like, we're just going to pretend this never happened. We're going to pretend this never took place. That's how we started discussing this. I wouldn't believe what Gardner was saying. I would look up and listen to the conversation. I think Gardner may be leading you astray. Change the graphics. The graphic, yeah, we've gone down a rabbit hole in this one. Did the internet increase sexual experimentation, or was it always there? Can we just see it? No way, Gardner. That's not what took place. Rebel, don't believe Gardner. Gardner's leading you astray. Gardner is totally leading you astray. No, this started off as, oh my God, there's a criminal case that needs to be filed against Hillary Clinton, or at the very least, things that dealt around this idea of all of the uranium that they exchanged, sold down the river, in a sense. How we ended up on this idea of talking about scrubbing down holodecks and whatnot, you would have to read the chat. You would have to read the chat to see where that went, because this is going totally astray. Seriously, take the picture down. It's disturbing us. The graphics is relevant to the convo. It was irrelevant to the original convo, so I'm leaving it. That's correct treat. Now I can't see it. I try to find one that's a little bit more relevant. I gotta be honest, I have no clue what would be relevant to this conversation, if I'm being honest. This conversation has jumped the fucking shark, and it's gone from talking about corruption to Star Trek, which is my weakness. It doesn't take, this is my weakness, to talking about scrubbing down the holodecks, because that's an honest portrayal. If you're talking about Barclay and everything else, you're talking about the Next Generation, which kind of degraded into characters of Deanna Troi, and how there will be multiple copies of Deanna Troi, and how Jean-Luc Picard would get to the point where he says, okay, you can't use people who work on the ship as holodeck characters. Because you understand, there's going to be some IT person that's saying, why is there an instance of Deanna Troi being used 100 times? Yeah. That's how this started. That's how it started. Clinton's been pushing Trump is there with Russia, and it's been her the entire time. Yes, that's true. Star Trek episode of the alternate universe Spock with the Fu Manchu. Yes, that's a badass one. They completed the episode in the web series Star Trek Continues. Really? I've seen 1 or 2 of the series. There's one of the show where Q is playing a different character. He's not Q, he's the actor, but he's playing a different character. He's fucking amazing. He's an amazing actor, and you can see how good of an actor he is when compared to other people on the show, because those guys aren't necessarily full, hardcore actors. Man is an amazing actor. Amazing actor. Oh, Worf is just so damn erotically sexy. Would love a dude to wear a Worf mask while humping me. That's Rebel Cage Rattler, by the way, who's saying that. I'm beginning to think that for all the proclamations of feminism and femininity, I'm about to say something immensely dangerous. For all the proclamations of femininity, and we want to be, at the very least, equals and everything else. I think when it comes to a certain biological activity, and by this I'm talking about sex, we're talking about sex, there is a power exchange. There is a natural power exchange. There is one person who's inserting himself into the other person. Now, whether that's a guy on a guy, whether that's a guy on a woman, the person who's doing the inserting is in a power position. That's not me as a guy, holding up my gonads as being the greatest thing on the planet. I'm just kind of making this point that from a biological standpoint, feminism ends when a penis is inserted. Now, that being said, the reason why I bring that up is because I've heard multiple women in this short stream say how they wanted to be manhandled by Worf. Now, that's not a bad thing, and I'm not joking it at all. I am making a point that I would imagine that's probably more real or more normal than not. I would imagine that society itself has certain things wrapped around it in regards to culture. The women are like, I don't want people to know that. I just want that to take place. Yeah, I don't have a thread for that. I'm just saying. I just find that interesting. Oh yeah, I'm not saying that part, Garno. That's one you do. I'm not saying that shit. I'm not taking that step. First Corp 82. What if they were both being inserted? Yeah, but come on. The typical position. Even if we're talking about Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman's power ends the moment that guy is having sex with Wonder Woman. Now, on the movie itself, she's a badass, and when she's having sex, she's just a woman. There's something sexy about that. Now, I'm a guy, so I look at that and I think that's sexy. That's perfectly natural. That's the way things are. I am aware of some people who, in LGBTQ culture, particularly from the standpoint of women, having issue with that. Like, it making them feel like they're lesser, like they're less in charge or something. It's an interesting position. Yeah. I don't have a threat for that. I'm just saying. I'm interested slightly because of the comments about Worf. It's like, oh man, I love Worf. Just put a Worf mask on me and have your way with me. I think it's more normal than not. Whether people announce that, whether they say that, I think it's more normal than not. It depends on the person, of course. It does depend on the person. You have some women who are very aggressive. Yeah, you have some women who are immensely aggressive. It slightly freaks me out, if I'm being honest. I'm sorry, I'm a Virgo. But yeah, some women really like that. It is what it is. Rebel Cage Rattler, right in economics. I pick Worf over Picard because I absolutely crave a hardcore dom that take me at times. I don't see Picard doing that. Picard would never do that. Picard wouldn't do it. Picard wouldn't do it because he would look at you as a person. And I don't necessarily think he has it in him to be rough in that very particular way. This kind of animalistic, I'm taking what's mine, shut the fuck up. You know, that type of, and look, and I'm not saying this in this kind of rape way. I'm just saying this, it is, but when Sinatra would sing, I would say Sinatra is unabashedly a man. That's a compliment. He's just being who he is. He sings a song in a way that just comes from a guy's perspective. He you know, this wives should be lovers, wives and lovers. Essentially, this thing that wives should always be lovers too. Run to his arms when he comes home to you, with this idea that men would always be men. Now, there is something straightforward about this thing of this guy being unabashedly a man, and this woman who says, okay, I want to be unabashedly a woman and have your property. And I'm saying property purely in the context that they're in and the way that she sees herself in that particular context, and that's the way she wants to be seen. Now, you have some women who's like, how dare you, sir? A person can be whatever they want in the context that they're in. If she wants to be taken that way, she can be taken that way. There's nothing to do with you but out of it. Feminism has nothing to do with it in this case. Or you can make the point that a woman can be a feminist and still want to be taken in a particular way. Is what it is. No, I don't see Picard doing that. Not in a million years. I don't see him doing it. Tender and sweet. I don't see him being that aggressive, you know, animalistic, hair pulling, ass slapping, arm breaking Worf. No, I don't see it. Rebel Cage Rattler. I have no shame at being an aggressive animal. You shouldn't. You're a person. You bet your ass that Michael Dorn doesn't miss any of the Star Trek conventions for groupies. That's awesome. That's awesome. I think it's biological imperative, not much different from men choosing mates with certain hip width, even though they don't know it. I think culture pushes people in a particular direction, but fair enough. Don't sell Picard short for his muted English passion, waiting to be set free. Remember, he was stabbed through the heart and he laughed. That's true. That's true. That's true. Dax is probably jaded to it by now. Rebel Cage Rattler, yes. Oh, we have perverts on duty. Right on. I love this. Trudy Caswell, not if I have a whip and a whipped cream. I would master Worf. No manhandling wanted. Worf's alright, but Picard can get it any day. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Picard can get it any day. That English French. Well, Picard is English. I mean, the character is French, but in real life he's English. Yeah, Picard can any day. That's fair. It's not a bad looking guy, you know. It is what it is. Picard would be the spanky, not the spanker. Don't say that, Gardome. Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. I'm gonna mute you. You're not gonna talk shit about Picard in that way. Aggressive women may be up Worf's alley, but Michael Dorn seems a little subdued. He did, right? When he's on stage with what's her name? I can't think of her name. He is immensely subdued. She owns that stage. She owns that stage. I'm sorry, ladies. I know you're thinking that Worf is this animal, but Deanna Troi would have owned him. She would have owned him. She would have owned him. She would have owned him. I'm sorry. I'm just saying, just looking at the attitude that they're taking on stage. Worf may play a big game, but I think when they get behind the scenes, Deanna Troi would have owned him. Everyone agrees that Picard wants a mommy figure. No, he does not. He was born Professor X, even in Logan. Jamal, Jamal, stop it, bro. Okay, it's Rattler, I'm sorry. Have you seen him in real life? Like him and Deanna Troi in real life? I can't think of their names. They're on stage at Star Trek conventions. And she owns that stage, man. She is amazing. Like, she is fucking hilarious. And listen to her talk about Star Trek and talk about the episodes and everything. She is hilarious. And he sits there, mum as a mouse. Mum as a mouse. Just saying. I know what you guys are thinking about Michael Dorn. And yes, this may be me being somewhat childish and dickish because you guys are lusting over Michael Dorn in that way, and I'm a red-blooded American guy. And so, yes, I have those things in me. It's like, okay, I'm going to take him down a peg. But based on what takes place on stage, and yes, I'm biased, what takes place on stage, I think Deanna Troi would have owned him. I think Worf would have been wearing, what are those cock chains where they have the person in bondage or prison? And yes, I think it would have been in, yes, I would think it would have been taking weapons. I could fantasize about Deanna too. And I love French, just saying. Stop that, I'm not listening to him more. There. John Crab 7067. I always thought it was funny when show creators gave Picard a French background. Should have been English. I thought it was interesting too. I mean, because he's English in real life. You'd have thought it would just been a natural match. Not to mention, he in no way sounds French. He is English. English can be. There's no way around it. I could fantasize about Deanna True Treaty Cast. Well, Deanna was very attractive. She was immensely attractive. Okay, guys, I have to quit fucking around and get shit done. This has been one of the strangest episodes. Yeah, have a good night. Thanks, Jamal. Yeah, this has been a very strange episode. This is I don't even know how to title this episode, if I'm being honest. This has gone into fucking insanity. Rebel Cage Rattler, I'm joking with you. I'm pretty sure Worf is this kind of animalistic Cleon that you want him, and I'm pretty sure he can take you in the way you want to be taken. So let's put that down. All right. Me, Worf, Dax, and Deanna. See, this is kind of my point, though. If we're being honest, if we're being immensely honest, very, very, very honest, painfully honest, terrifyingly honest to a breathtaking degree that under normal circumstances, most human beings never touch. Maybe 3 in the morning talking to their God or their Savior. Let's be dangerously honest. As human beings, there's certain things that we crave. We tend to crave things that are not us, meaning things that are withheld from us, whether that's cash, whether that's people, whether that's a race, whether that's some kind of kink, whatever. As human beings, those things seem to be built in us in that way. Our society kind of breeds certain things of saying, you know, you can have no-nos and all this other stuff, create certain taboos, and as human beings, these things kind of end up in our heads. A lot of that stuff is just culture that we wrap ourselves around. Society doesn't necessarily have to be the way society is. And the way that it is, it makes it difficult for people to live just as human beings. So you may have a guy, you may have a woman that guy, that woman may want something very specific, but that guy, that woman can't ask for that specific thing, because if they do, they're going to lose the relationship that they're in. Or this person going to think they're nuts, or the person is going to think they're crazy, or the person is going to be like, you're fucking insane, there's no way we can do that. Or they're going to look at you bad when you're eating your Cheerios in the morning, whatever. I'm just saying, as a human being, there's certain things, we make our lives difficult, that's all. If your girlfriend wants to be rogered by 2 other guys and the chick down the hall, and those 2 other guys and the chick down the hall are okay with rogering your girlfriend, now your ego is going to get in the way and you're going to balk at this completely. But if, for the moment, take your ego out of it. What if your ego wasn't in the mix? What if you just loved your girlfriend and you wanted her to have a good time, and you said, okay, have at it, you guys have fun. Can I sit here in the corner and videotape this? Or can I touch myself inappropriately while you guys are doing this? Whatever the person wants to do. Hell, he may want to go to Red Lobster or something like that. Whatever. I'm just saying, the thing that gets in the way and stuff like this is ego. It's person. It's not what the person's impulse is. It's not the problem. The problem is how the society views it, and how that person views it, and what that person thinks society is going to view them as if they go through with that particular impulse and all this other stuff. The person themselves has just been a person. What the person wants, they've just been a person. If that person wants something different for that particular day, then that person has just been a person. You want something different. That impulse is as natural can be. The problem is how we arrange ourselves. Now, the reason why I say viciously honest is because most people don't like to broach this kind of conversation. Ultimately, they're like, my wife, my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my husband, my whatever, looks at me and only looks at me, and the world can fuck off. We know that's not true. We know that's not real. We know that your wife sometimes looks at the mailman in a particular way, or looks at the guy at her job a particular way, or looks at, you know, the bellboy who comes to delivers the pizza a particular way, or looks at the guy who walks into their particular, you know, their office every so often and raises an eyebrow. She may look at her coworker. They would never tell you this, but this is something that takes place in one office after the next, after the next, after the next, whether it's a man or whether it's a woman. The scenarios is sometimes flipped, depending upon the gender, depending on sexuality and all this other stuff. But ultimately, what we're talking about are just people being people. That's it. The difficulties and everything else that come along with this are those people dealing with society's stigma, saying, okay, I can't do this or I can't do that. No, and beyond that, my wife or my husband or my boyfriend or my girlfriend is not going to allow me to do XYZ, meaning this thing's just in my head. I can't say anything about it. I need to pretend that this doesn't exist, etc., etc., etc. Yeah. Cardinome say he's going to get a frying pan, or he's going to give Miss Thomas a frying pan. Title it, Jamal traumatizes his audience with Hillary Clinton's photo and talks about sex. Good times. Rebel Cage Rattler, but that's not the way. I like it. But that's the way. That's the way. I like it. Teach his own, man. Teach his own. Trudy Caswell, honestly, I'm a widow and not interested in sex anymore. Teach his own. If that's what you want, that's what you want. That's a choice. Trudy Caswell, Honey Crab, rolling up ROFL. Catherine Horace, this has been great. Garnome, I'm strongly monogamous. I will not be able to carry on a relationship with a woman after that. It is a lot of work, right? I'm sorry, it's true. It is a lot of work. My wife and I have very different, we were raised very differently, even though we're very similar in some respects. One of the ways we were raised differently is I was the only child. I was left to my own devices for a very long time. I was an oddball, even as an only child. And then after I got sick, it became more of this thing of being very unique and different than anybody else that was around me at my particular age. So for the most part, I left the next 10, 15 years, just left to my own devices. Some of this was my own fault. Some of this was just the way I was, you know, just the way I kind of grew. Well, she had like 3 brothers. That was not her experience at all. Her experience was one of closeness with family and everything else. I didn't have that. So we can imagine that there would be an issue where I am ferociously independent, and she is not. Not a bad thing at all. It's not good or bad. It just is. It's one of those things that you just deal with just because that's kind of the price of being in a relationship itself. And we find ways to kind of meet middle ground on that stuff. Yeah. I think it's time for me to find a nice plant and settle down. Oh, that's gross. That's gross. Rubber cage rattler. Ha, my real dad is a mailman that delivered mail to my mom's house when she was married to a man that came back into her life years after I was born, then became my stepfather. Wow, I messed up. Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing. That's so wild. Trinity Castle. I really hated Enterprise. Scott Bakula sucks. Scott Bakula did suck. He did suck. To me, he sucked for a very particular reason. They only had like 2 ships. They only had like 2 or 3 ships. The Enterprise was one of the first ships that they launched. And he was out there fucking around, starting conflict with other races. You have 1 ship. How are you starting any conflict with anybody? You're on a mission of discovery and you leave it the shit at discovery. All these things and proclamations of it wasn't our fault, we didn't have a choice to get involved, etc., whatever. One of those races that you're dicking around with could lay siege to Earth. Understand what I mean. Understand the gravity of what we're talking about. This is not the United States dicking around in another country and then another country may attack the United States. This is another planet or series of planets laying siege to Earth. Those were the stakes. As I watched the episodes, I kept thinking to myself, wait a minute, they don't have 1 ship. Why is he fucking around like this? But the episodes went on. The episodes went on. Deanna was hotter than 7 of 9. Yes, she was. Hands down. Hands down. It's not a contest. At least I don't think it's a contest. I thought she was probably the most attractive person on on all of the shows combined. Easy. Hands down. Hands down. He was the most incompetent captain, but that was kind of the point. They were just starting. That's true. No, I agree. I agree. I agree, Gardner. I agree. I agree. Should have won an Emmy for Quantum Leap. Deanna is gorgeous. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. Don't have me lusting after Deanna. Miss Thomas is going to be like, I heard you lusting after Deanna Troi. These live chats go away after the show is done, right? No, they don't. This goes on forever. Forever. It's going to be in the memory of like 50 people. Rebel Cage Rattler wants to be roughed up. Trudy Caswell Backlit is a lousy overactor. If you think he's an overactor, you need to see James T. Kirk. William Shatner is fucking amazing, though. Shatner's overacted, but he did it in a way that was so over the top that it was just fucking spectacular. It just worked. It just absolutely worked. It's so worked. Right, in economics, she's laughing at Rebel Cage Rattler. Yeah, Rebel. This is going to be on forever. This is going to be on forever. There's no harm in it, man. There's no harm in it at all. If you want to get roughed up, have at it. If you want to have a bunch of guys do it, have at it. If you want to have a bunch of guys and a few females, have at it. It's human beings being human beings. There's no negative. There's no negative. Kevin Pollock does the best William Shatner. Shatner pulled it off. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And there is so many episodes where Shatner is doing karate and all this other stuff. And you can see Shatner doing karate and you find out that there's like you can tell that it's a guy with a Shatner wig on. And at a certain point, because Shatner didn't want to do his own stunts. It was amazing, man. I love the original series. The original series was amazing. Yeah, the original series is fucking amazing. Alright, guys. This has gone on for like 3 hours. I can't believe I've been doing this for 3 hours. You guys put me into a weird and funny topic. I have no clue what to name this. I don't even know if I want to keep Hillary Clinton with the bars, because that seems a little weird right now, if I'm being honest. Yeah, Shatner is a guy with a Shatner wig. Yeah, Shatner has a Shatner wig, but he would have a stunt double, and they would cover his face, so the stunt double's face would be hidden from the camera, but he would have a wig, but you could tell it was so badly done that you could tell it was a stunt double. But it worked. Like, it worked. Like, it's hard. When you're looking at the original series, even now, the lighting and everything else on the show is beautiful. It's beautiful. And William Shatner's acting is so over the top that it makes it work. And when you have Spock, and you know Spock has emotion going under the surface, even though Spock is not showing it. And you know he looks at this guy, and he loves this guy as his friend. And he would never say it unless something massive takes place where he thought he killed Captain Kirk, and Kirk comes back and he's like, Jim! And then he regains his composure. You know it's under the surface. Now, there is something magical and special about that crew that is not necessarily replicated in the other series, but it is a beautiful thing to behold. It really is. It really is. Wow, time flies. His shirt is half torn. Yeah, that always happened too. Starfleet always had those cheap shirts, and anytime Kirk got into a fight, the shirt was always torn in one particular way. That's awesome. It's awesome. It's awesome. Never forget the dog they tried to pass off as an alien. That's awesome. I remember that one. I remember. God, I need to watch those shows again, man. Those things are so amazing. They're so good. They're breathtakingly corny, but yeah, you're right. They are good. They are good. Uhura is sexy. Uhura was sexy. There was one when she got a little older. There was one where she was doing this flag dance in order to entice these aliens to come over, and she pulled that shit off amazingly well. If you wanted to see something funny and raunchy, watch the roast of Captain Kirk of William Shatner. The roast of William Shatner, and it is the funniest shit you would ever see in your life. And they are raunchy. They're so raunchy. Like, it's immensely raunchy. They had Uhura on the show. They had Sulu on the show. Of course, they had William Shatner. But there was one line where Uhura got up there and she said, "Oh, I remember it was the first kiss of an African American woman." And when Captain Kirk, I keep calling him Captain Kirk, when William Shatner got closer to her, she bent over and put her ass up in the air and says, "I can now tell you to kiss my ass." Like, it is an amazing, mind-blowing thing to see these guys acting in this way. There was another one where Sulu was joking William Shatner. And Shatner gets up there and says Sulu spent the last, the entire 3 years trying to suck his cock. It's funny. It's hilarious. They were like having to go at each other big time. They don't hold back. They even, if I'm not mistaken, they have Lisa Lampanelli. Lisa Lampanelli is randy, man. She is rough. She is rough. She is rough. She makes me blush. And I am lefty as lefty can get on this stuff. I am living like live. And I listen to her and I blush. That's how bad Lisa Lampanelli is. And they had her on Snake. William Shatner gave as good as he got. It is just weird to see these guys being this vulgar with one another. It's awesome. It's amazing. Forsaken Companion. Looking at the chat, I'm almost afraid to know what the show is about. The show started off about this idea of corruption and everything else. And then the show, whether you want to say devolved or changed or turned, it went into this idea of Star Trek and then the holodeck. And then whether one person was hotter than another, and then this idea of what takes place on the holodeck, and then cleaning the holodeck like 20 times every minute or some weird thing like that, and instances of Deanna Troi, because all these people would want to have sex with Deanna Troi if they were on the ship of the Enterprise, and so they would just use that instance in the holodeck. It was like it devolved into women wanted to be roughed up by Worf. It went into that. Oh man, yeah. Pretty much debauchery in Star Trek. Thank you, Red Economics. Red Economics says this stuff better than I do. Started with Hillary, devolved into debauchery in Star Trek. Perfectly put. Trudy, you should come on Ebon's late show if you're up when you're streaming. That should be interesting. Oh, so long ago, Captain Horrors. I know, right? I know. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, as wayward as this content has gotten today, feel free to share, write, like, all that good stuff, and subscribe. And have a good night. Yeah, have a good night. All of the perverts out there, myself included. Have a good night.